Season 4 FACEIT League Master Division Playoff Day continues. We have already had one fantastic matchup, and we've sent Quick Esports into the Grand Finals, where they have Frosttails awaiting them for the championship. There's Jeff Economy back at you here as we're about to get into our second match of the day.
Yeah, they want that rematch. The salty run back is going to be here for Quick Esports. Now, this time in a best of 7, not a best of 5, like it was in that upper bracket final that we saw. And I mean, this is a matchup that I think is going to be very interesting because we've seen Frosttail Esports. I think you described them as the silly team of EMEA, getting all the way to that grand finals. Kind of surprisingly, again, you know, with how TA was so dominant throughout that regular season and going down to the lower bracket so early, then losing to Quick Esports 6-0 in both of the matches that we saw from them. So Quick Esports, they're warmed up, they're ready to go based on how they were playing in that lower bracket final, but Frosttail is no slouch either, and they're a team that I'm super interested to kind of look at. They're, I think, you know, one of the only teams, there were a couple of teams that had like, you know, the same nationality in the roster. A lot of the teams are mixed, but this team, a lot of them are French, pretty much. I think most of the starters besides one is French. There is Kiwi, who I believe is British in there, but I think that it's interesting kind of when you look at, especially in bracket phase, where it's like that language barrier is like one less variability that you have to, you know, kind of deal with, especially in these high stakes situations where it's like you're not worried about comms too much. Everyone's French. Everyone's probably yelling at each other in French, and maybe if they win, I'll get to interview someone in French, but we'll see. They still have to go through a very, very good Quick Esports team.
And that's something I never really thought about is, you know, we're just removing that layer. We're removing one more factor of communication and how much that could just really be a boon here for this Frosttail squad. And, you know, when we talked about just how, you know, TA's prowess in the regular season only dropped 6 maps in the regular season, well, Frosttail were responsible for 3 of those. Quick Esports were a top team coming through regular season. Frosttail's able to beat them as well. In fact, Frosttail's, despite coming through, you know, not, you know, as your number 2 seed, they beat everybody around them. They beat all the top 10 teams here in Master Division. The caveat, well, they had 2 losses. Their 2 losses were to the 10th and 12th seed.
Yeah, maybe a bit
make
too
it
silly.
make sense. Make it make sense.
Maybe a bit too silly from them, and that's really what we're going to have to be looking out for if they continue to be silly in this grand final. But we can take a look at the rosters actually for both of these teams, starting off with Frosttail Esports and the way that they play. And I mean, again, we talked about how, you know, this team in particular, they do some things that are a little bit different to like the other teams that we've seen, not as standard. But one of the things I think for this team in particular that they're so very good at is their mid-fight. Their mid-fight is exceptional. There were a lot of times, specifically against Quick Esports, where they had these team fights where it's a 2v4, it's a 3v4, and then bam, they come out with some clutch DPS plays, some clutch or a support play that like really completely shifts the tone, and it feels like there's never a deficit when you're facing this team, right? You only win fights against Frosttail Esports when they're all back in spawn. It's the only time that a fight is completely over for them. The one weakness that I've kind of seen from them, though, for Frosttail Esports is when we talk about how silly they are, they do have a tendency to lose fights very early, right? There's some, you know, maybe a tank misstep. They're a little bit inconsistent, right? They start these in the neutral fight at the start, they lose members, and sometimes they lose them in a way where they can't, you know, mechanic their way back into a team fight. So that's something to look out for when we start, you know, seeing this team play against Quick Esports again. Is like, how is that start of the fight going to end up going? Because if it gets to the mid fight and they're like close to even, they definitely have an advantage.
Yeah, you have to give the edge to Frosttails almost every time. Hey, it's on the back of some wild picks and some just shenanigans out of that team as well. We've seen just we've seen the Roadhog played unironically. I kind of touched on it earlier. We've seen Lifeweaver played unironically from the Frosttails team this season. They will pull out some wacky stuff. And then, of course, the more tried and true, the team we just saw take the 3-0 down on your screen. Willis, the highlight here. The tank player for this squad, definitely a future star of Overwatch, and was big component of that 3-0 we just saw, and the reason Quick Esports are in this grand finals here right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I'll be interested in is like, where does Willis go in terms of like style of play going? Because I think for Frosttail, the last time they played, Frosttail was like totally willing to like match up in the hazard mirror and said that they were totally fine with that. It felt like they actually were willing sometimes to play that, and Willis didn't necessarily have the same amount of value that we saw against TA, where Willis was playing phenomenally. Even the Divas sometimes didn't end up matching up too well against what was brought to the table from FrostTail Esports. But again, if there is going to be FrostTail Esports, making these mistakes sometimes in the early fights, where Quick Esports, they love having good tempo, they love setting up and being effective in those like early dives, early engagements. That's really where I think this matchup's going to come down to. If FrostTail is like just kind of on a clip and they're like continuously just really setting that tempo, not letting Quick Esports set up on anything, that's really where I think FrostTail is going to have an advantage. Because even if if Quick Esports, if they're not like completely crisp with their dives and they aren't like taking kills effectively, quickly, that's really where in these like very chaotic mid-fight situations where FrostTail has an advantage.
Well, I mean, basically, if Quick are able to succeed in those fast opening picks, you're talking about that's kind of where FrostTails feel vulnerable. So, I mean, it sounds like, if the initial dive works, then Quick should have the advantage in the engagement. If FrostTail's able to survive that opening 10 to 20 seconds, then FrostTails are more likely going to swing that fight back. It's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's basically it. And as well as the kind of like, how is that space going to be created by Willis? Because Willis, I mean, if Willis can create the space for the hit scan, we saw how good Zydra was playing on the Cassidy and how effective it was. I think probably would go over to Sojourn here, just based on the fact that I don't think there's going to be that much Winston coming in from FrostTail, and I think Cassidy loses a little bit of value when it's not just against a Winston wholeheartedly. I think, Sojourn gets a lot of value because you can kind of just farm your rail off of the hazard pretty easily.
And that slide.
And the slide is just very good. So I think that's probably what I'd see Zydra move over to. To be fair, though, with how good Zydra was playing Cassidy, maybe give it a go. I mean, you're in the grand finals. Why not at this point?
I also want to highlight the take care from FrostTail's Crocs. Is talking about those hazards. Crocs was one of the first one to start playing hazard really well. And one thing I had heard about Crocs is this is kind of part of his strengths, is that Crocs is really, really good at figuring out new heroes. And as such has really make a big splash from hazard in the get-go, and this could turn into a really cool hazard matchup because, well, we know Willis is darn good at the hero too. So there's something to keep in mind as we move forward into this. I'm really looking forward to kind of watching how the tanks face up here.
Yeah, Croc's a little bit of a typer as well, I saw in match chat.
Crocs is a ham, man. Crocs is a ham.
Crocs is a typer in the match chat. But yeah, I think that, again, kind of going with like Crocs and Willis and like how that matchup's going to go forward between these two teams as we do get into pick ban. I think Crocs is like, has a little, sometimes those moments where like that inconsistency shows where it's like, okay, you'll see like some really good engagements from Crocs, some really good positioning as Quick Esports is going to take away the Junker Queen, which is something that Crocs actually did play against Quick Esports the last time, and it worked out really effectively. I believe it was on Dorado on a matchup like that. So I think that getting rid of Crocs' hero pool is a good pick for them in terms of the ban. We'll see what FrostTail goes for in terms of their ban at this end. I don't think we have the map just yet, so we'll see what they're going to be opting in for, but already a good start from Quick.
Oh, okay. So FTE got to ban out the Torbjorn here right out of the gate. So targeting dip, we saw a lot of that Torb in this previous match. We saw Torb played in 2 of the 3 matches, so eliminate some of the anti-flanker capability. Everyone for map to come in, though. Oh, go ahead.
I think it's also really good against the Tracer. That's like the other thing that I think it does really good against, because we saw,
exactly.
Dip was like 2v1ing people, or 1v2ing people like the Kiriko and the Tracer with like Torbjorn, and if that's something that we're going to be seeing, which we do see, a lot from FrostTail Esports, we see we see Pack on the Tracer, we see also Kiwi on the Kiriko, like we see it a lot. So I think it's definitely a good idea to kind of just like take that away altogether and not have to, because like playing Tracer into Torbjorn, I bet there's people like who are watching who have like done that and they're like, it's the most miserable thing ever. Yeah, I don't want to do it, so let's just like get rid of it. Let Pack have a lot of value on the Tracer, being able to match up 1v1 against Dip on the Tracer on the other side.
There's also a lot of synergy in player history between Pack and Gogo. So when you've got a lot of your main support going with your flex DPS these days, be it the Lucio going with the Genji or the Kiriko swift stepping in to join a Tracer on a flank to try to provide that extra help in controlling the flank kills. We're seeing a lot of 3-2 splits in the fast-paced style of this meta. When you're starting to see the hazards in the dive comp. So keep an eye out for that, and keep it out for Gogo and Pack to now be able to work those flanks completely unimpeded, since there's you're not going to get the dip torp.
Yeah, and that makes kind of the side angle fights or like the side lane fights really a lot more impactful, especially if whoever wins that TVT, or if the Kiriko is going to be there to help. If there's a Genji as well, like kind of how that matchup ends up going, because if you win that matchup by yourself, you're able to just like get so much space for the rest of the team.
First map randomly chosen. So Nepal is a random pick. It will be loser pick from there on out, not just in map type, but game type as well. So you have the full breadth of map pool to choose from each map. We saw Nepal in our last map, and despite being a little bit more ground-paced, ground style map, we saw a lot more dive. Between our first two teams. I wonder if that's going to continue here as we get into this Frosttails Grand Finals. Take it on quick.
Okay, I'm back.
Ah! I just saw that. I was like, wait a minute.
Hey, online broadcasts, they sometimes tech issues happen. And that's just how it is sometimes. So I'm back. I'm here. I'm sure what you said was smarter than anything I was going to say anyways. So.
Yes. Yeah, we'll go with that. Totally. I got to say, I got to talk with Crocs a little bit before this weekend. And was asking Crocs about the keys to Frosttails' success, and how they're able to take down all these top teams and, not really playing as serious perhaps as some other squads yet, showing up some of the best performances. Crocs told me it's all about the power of friendship. Quite literally, that's the love for each other and the love for the game, that they just have fun, and that fun has resulted in immense success so far here this season.
Very French is what I'm hearing from that. But, I'm very, very excited to kind of see how this team's going to end up playing. I mean, it is kind of I think that while they do play a lot of silly stuff, they do tend to go back towards a lot of the standard which we're seeing right now. Actually, Pac is going to be on the Genji a little bit different, and Zydra going to be sticking on to that Cassidy, so not opting in for that Sojourn. Because I mean, hey, if it ain't broke, you 3-0'd quick, you 3-0'd TA before this, don't fix it. You're going to be able to get some value still off of this Cassidy.
Yeah, I mean, at least wait until Frosttails find an answer. Keo in a deep flank. He's already pushed all the way across to find an angle into the back line. But Quick is looking to the same. Kind of a little bit of a do-si-do rotations. Quick are trying to take Elephant right now with Will's position right up into the choke. Crocs moves in to contest, throws a wall, trying to block some healing, but takes too much damage and is forced out. Keo still trying to play on this off angle and pressure down Wills. Jumps up and tries to do a dip as well, but a free cap comes through. Oh, Frosttails, you don't let him cap that early. That was a gift.
Yeah, but really good rotations. I mean, coming out from Quick Esports, rotating around these aggressive dives that we saw coming in from Frosttail Esports, who wanted to take that space away and hold those angles, but they weren't able to do so with Crocs, and now Quick Esports have all of this positioning to work with Zydra. And actually, Keo is on a monster flank right now. Zydra gets taken out before the high noon.
Yeah, Keo was hiding from the previous fight, never disengaged, and Quick Esports did not make the read whatsoever. Beautiful play. Natsuki does strike back, though, so both teams are missing a DPS here. Oh, that was Gogo in a lot of trouble trying to duel Natsuki off the coastline. Meanwhile, it's a 2v1 against Crocs, and Quick Esports are coming up with both of those wins. Yoham almost saved Natsuki there at the end. Still a fight win for Quick.
And I mean, this is really good for Quick because they're at 44%, and it feels like we've had like one team fight realistically. Like there wasn't really that crisp, clean play that we've seen coming in from Frosttail Esports, and this is something that we talked about where it's like the start of these fights sometimes don't end up working well for Frosttail, and they lose and they start to snowball themselves into a loss, and you're feeling very good if you're Quick Esports holding this angle.
Especially with Zydra with the Deadeye. Able to just buy more time, gonna come out immediately. Oops, got trying to get back. We'll force out that recall. And meanwhile, Keo is opening things up here for Frosttails. You lose Crocs though, and Consideration comes in tankless. Frosttails are trying to get this done with just the squishies and going into an orbit away from Quick. They managed to find Willis, miraculously enough. Through double support also without their tank, Frosttails are able to wrestle down the Ramatra. Still Natsuki rallying for assist. Player advantage for Quick Esports with 85% on the board. Back trying to hold it down, but all the cooldowns have been forced out. Crocs returns to get a kill into Natsuki, though. That's just what Frosttails needed.
Yeah, you've got a downpour as well, so if you want to try and re-engage from this one from Quick Esports, you have to go through a lot. They're just going to try and get as much percentage as possible, get it towards that 99%.
Frosttails looking to flip. Hey, Quick Esports getting close enough. Here comes that downpour you were talking about. Willis able to block it with the shield, drop the Annihilation. Susan get ready up, but Crocs is still very low, and Natsuki comes in with a flank kill with the alt fire. Kiwi gets the revenge. Most teams now absent of support. 4v3 for Quick Esports on the objective. Pack trying to even the odds, but can't land the pulse. There's the flip. Frosttail's now pressured to have to move on to this objective. They're going to have to do it without a Lucio. Pack makes it onto the point. Zydra gets 3. That's going to be that. First map's going over to Quick.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about. I mean, I felt like it was Sojourn that was going to be something that Zydra pulls out, because it's what we saw actually Quick Esports do the last time they played Frosttail Esports. But again, if Zydra's playing this good on Cassidy, there's no need to change. Like, that 3K at the very end, kind of indicative of how much value the Cassidy was getting. I think Zydra had, like, high noon after that first, like, one engagement that we saw because of the value that it was getting and the amount of pressure that's being put down. And that's a weird position, it feels like, for Frosttail Esports to be in, because even in the mid fights, they're not getting the footholds that they usually have. And this is a really, really good start for Quick Esports.
It feels, I mean, I don't know. I'm almost getting the feeling that Quick isn't giving them that early engage. You were talking about how Quick wants to usually engage fast, but because they're playing this ground and pound, more brawly style, they're playing a lot more patient.
Yeah, the rotations are effective as well. They're not letting Frosttail Esports really get into the teeth of the team and, you know, let the Genji get value on the dives, let the Sojourn get that space. They're really, really hunkering down, and Crocs is being put down a lot of pressure. I mean, look at how much pressure is being put down on the Crocs by this Pharah. Already has to retreat and uses every single one of their cooldowns to get out.
It gives up the entirety of the map to make that happen. The entire Frosttails are now fairly contained. Does look like Pack and Gogo were able to sneak up the right side with so many low health bars. And Zydra will find the first blood here on Sanctum. Frosttails, if they back her against the wall, there could be more to follow. I think they were fortunate Quick Esports didn't press this issue.
Yeah, I mean, the way that they're using the vortexes as well from Willis, just putting them down to make sure Crocs isn't able to jump out, and just the Pharah continuously putting down that pressure, just really making it difficult for Crocs to take that space and make these engagements.
Love how far back Quick Esports back on play and staying out of the violent leap range from Crocs, giving them minimal options. They have to attack the very sustainable Ramattrix, the only choice being given to Crocs at the moment. Pack on that angle, that is an important play. Could open this up, and it's going to be a forward push. Frosttails trying to converge onto the bridge with this Consumer Rush. Great wall, denied a little bit from healing from Willis, but they had the block, they had the sustain. Still 5 strong. Frosttails disengaged, but they give up control of the objective.
Yeah, but they have to use a lot of cooldowns to win that fight, and now it's going to be Quick Esports going back and trying to take control of this point for themselves, as Zydra has a lot of good sightlines right now directly onto this point, but Dip ends up going down to Keo. Great rotation.
Keo still playing on that right side. Crocs moves in to find Natsu. This is all the way back towards Quick Spawn. The jump over. Zydra rolls, almost ends up in the pit. Ends up in Spawn either way.
Hey, Zydra got their one, though, so got their one off of the Lucio, and Dip is a... I don't think this is, this is just going to be to kind of hold and see if there's going to be any Frosttail player who's getting a little bit too over-aggressive before going back over to that Genji. Now, though, it's still going to be, I mean, a good engagement from Quick Esports. The biggest thing they do have to worry about when this orbital ray is going to be coming through is going to be that downpour coming in from Crooks, because it stops the engagement very effectively, and with this enclosed area, it's going to be even more deadly.
Goes to the left-hand side. I think Dip is just trying to keep that left flank clear so they can push out towards the right, where the Deadeye from Zydra looking to lock down a couple of skulls. Can't quite find Keo across the bridge. Knows that OC is looming. Downpour thrown in from the backside. Doesn't catch anything. Rally up from Natsuki to try to push on. Pack just disengaging all the way to the point, using every cooldown they had to get there, and still Dip is able to follow, pursue for the kill. The rally will escort Quick into a retake onto this objective. They even have some more ultimates to close it out in case Frosttails wants to come back in.
That was 2 ultimates used by Frosttail and got no value whatsoever. The Overclock got nothing, and the Downpour got nothing either, so that means that you're going to be able to keep Quick Esports your very key ultimates, like this Annihilation and like the Orbital Ray.
Good news for Frosttails is they are returning with double support ults. They have got to get value out of them. Maybe going to be the first all lives and get in position to throw this pretty much in a good spot. A little bit laterally across the back. There's that Annihilation. Mikio with an important opening pick. Jumps down in. Oh no! Gets denied in the duel against Zydra. Leaving Zydra all alone on bridge. Orbital Ray thrown over the point here from Quick. It seems like they've got all the tools to take this point back. Rotation from Frosttails and Quick are not putting a lot of point pressure down, allowing the percentage to build up. And honestly, they've kind of gotten contained here. Pack is now able to pull out the blade. Doesn't get anything. He's got to get out of there.
Yeah, Pack was trying to get those picks, because if he got those picks, it was going to tick up to percentage with 90%. Now, a Sound Barrier engagement goes in, and it's just going to be too overwhelming for Quick Esports to deal with, and that should be a map win for Frosttail unless something disastrous happens for them. And with Quick Esports having no resources, ain't no way they're going to be able to hold that one, and Frosttail Esports take us to a village.
What a turnaround. God, this Frosttails team is so fun to watch. I mean, it felt like they were just
so
contained the whole time, and they fight their way out, Kenobi.
They're so dynamic. I mean, it was really just off the back of, like I said, like there are those times where it's like Keo has this very like inconsistent nature where like Keo will like have moments like on the first map where you're a little bit invisible, and then on that map you just get like the pick on the Genji that like wins you a team fight, right? So aggressively like that. It's really, really fun to watch how like this team can just like turn that switch immediately, and that's what we saw on that previous sub map. And now going into Village, I wonder if we see any kind of difference in terms of what we'll see with the DPS or with the tanks as well, because this is much more of a brawly style map, but doesn't look like either of these teams want to change too much.
Could favor the Willis from Ultra, particularly if they just want to anchor on the objective. They're sticking with the far, very powerful here on Village. Not a whole lot of room, but doesn't feel like they're going to have good enough targets with it. Goes back over to that. Yep. Neither Genji control the flanks, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think also that the problem was that the speed was enough for Frosttail Esports to get into position, and that means that there was going to be the Sojourn who just had all those angles to make the Pharah difficult to maneuver through and get through those chokeholds and without being, you know, threatened of getting hit with a rail shot.
Quick, we're just too slow on the draws, basically what I'm hearing.
Pretty much.
Still a 0-0 on this point. Ooh, and look how aggressive, quicker, just went back towards their own spawn, but they managed to catch the aggression and strike back. They get 3-1 trade on that. Willis is going to win out tank war, and first cap actually goes over to Quick.
And you talked about a Bullskunk. You talked about a Bullskunk where it's like if Quick Esports off that first initial engagement from Frosttail Esports, if Quick Esports can just absorb the pressure and just lose maybe 1 or 2 members, but still like trade back and forth, that does end up working out for them relatively well, and that's what we saw there. It was a great engagement from Frosttail, but just the amount of peel and the pressure that was soaked up from Quick Esports completely turned that dive into nothing, and now Quick Esports have all of this ability to hold this positioning, and this is where Zydra becomes even more lethal.
So much room to work. Deadeye will keep Frosttail's pinned into kitchen while you've got Pack and Crocs on the objective. Dip looking to hunt down on the outside, and will chase down Pack, eliminate one of those threats. Meanwhile, Zadra is going to move into the kitchen. We're going to go cook themselves, perhaps, you know, killing some tasty Frosttails for lunch.
And that's one of the things as well that the Cassidy brings to the table, that, you know, opposed to something like a Sojourn where it's like you're just constantly, the pressure is constant, right? With Sojourn, you need to farm towards that rail. You have to play a little more slowly, and Zydra, while that's happening, is just continuously hitting headshot after headshot.
So dead. Big rotation from Frosttails. Moving in, but it wasn't clean. Here comes Willis to try to hunt it down. Willis finds themselves in the middle of a Fox-laden Kitsune rush, though. Pass the force, put the block up. Crocs moves in, finds Zydra out of the back line. How did Zydra get all the way back there? Whew. Crocs dive, lands one hit onto Natsuki, and Heal with the follow-up. Now Crocs is on the point with an ultimate and a +2 player advantage that Heal is going to leverage into a flip. Frosttail soon gets percentage here.
And that's something I'd actually like to see from Frosttail a little bit more, is those kind of aggressive engagements directly onto Zydra. Like, Zydra should not be left alone in these scenarios on high ground to be able to just continuously just plink away at your team. It's actually a very aggressive push from Frosttail. They're using ultimates here.
Trying to throw Deadeye on the Hydra. Dip is going to have to use an ultimate to get out. In fact, we're just going to get an ult fight right in front of the shuttle, where Crocs is going to pick up 2 on the back of the sound barrier in from Gogo. And,
that was expensive. That was expensive, though. I mean, that was 4 ultimates, and now you look at, I mean, Quick Esports comes back into this one. You've got Rally, you've got Orbital Ray. You can kind of just walk onto point here. Like, it's going to be really difficult for Quick Esports unless there is, like, something like a pick in the mid-fight with the Kitsune Rush from Keeley. Like, this is a very winnable fight for Quick Esports, and they're at 80%, and they are that one-fight territory.
Just a Kitsune Rush for Frosttails to hold it off. Dip going on a solo mission on the outside. Willis with the raid. He's going to go in. Forces Crocs back. Crocs goes over to Coast to escape and chases down Dip.
Disaster. It's a complete disaster, Bullskunk, because now you've just given more time over to Frosttail Esports to start continuously getting their ultimates, and we're at 61%. By the time we get to this fight, it's going to be around 80% for them, and they are in that last fight territory for both of these teams. You still have the support ultimates for Quick Esports, but realistically, it's walking into a Kitsune Rush, which is still so difficult to do.
Going to take those support ults just to get through the choker. The Kitsune Rush is up. Willis trying to punch through. Crocs cannot escape. Turns attention. Nice! Accuracy finds Gogo on the jump. That's a quick 2 there for Willis, and a much-needed fight win for Quick. At 80%, and particularly with Pack doing a little bit of stall, I think we're going to get one more fight.
They're going to get one more fight, but it's going to be pretty much a complete neutral fight. Besides, Willis going to be having this annihilation, which is actually going to be something that's going to be so difficult for Frosttail because they're walking into this and they have to fight on point. And when you're fighting on point against an annihilation, Ramatra's just going to get so much value there. Actually, Keo is just behind the team by themselves, almost taken down. 1 health gets him from Dip.
Oh! We saw it work out for him in a previous submet, not that time. And it's an easy 5v4, not to mention that annihilation you talked about that is just going to leech damage onto Frosttails. Anybody get close to the point, may not even need it. Cypher's going to get another one here. It's up to Crocs to try and come and touch. Double bar is going, and Crocs just has to sacrifice themselves. Quick'll win out first map. It takes 3 sub-maps, but they will start with the 1-0 lead here in your grand finals.
Quick Esports are winning. I mean, 4 maps off the trot for them. They look very, very good right now with what we're seeing. And Frosttail Esports, I mean, for them, I'm a little bit worried. We talked about how in the mid-fight they're so good, but we never really saw any of those. Like, we saw, I think, one from Keo where we had that rail shot that was really impactful on the Genji, but besides that, there was none of that like very high dynamic play in the mid fight that we saw. It felt like it was Quick Esports who had the footholds for the most part and were being the aggressors, the ones setting the tempo, and that's something that you can't let happen if you're Frosttail Esports. That's the little bit of inconsistency that we've seen coming in from them we talked about a little bit before.
Yeah, and there's moments where we see Crocs able to pop off, where you see Keo able to hit some shots and look like, that high accurate, DPS dealer, but I think we got more of the inconsistency on map 1 outside of perhaps Sanctum.
I mean, we saw some flanks that did end up working well for Keo, but it felt like a little bit disjointed from Frosttail for the most part. Like, there were a lot of these like hero plays that I didn't necessarily see from them the last time they played Quick Esports. And Quick Esports, like I talked, they're totally fine like taking these advantages, and if the mid fight isn't going to be completely turned around like we've seen sometimes with Frosttail in the past, like Quick Esports feel very, very good about winning these fights early, which they did a lot of the time. Like, there were some picks that just shouldn't have happened realistically, like Keo just going on these very aggressive flanks and not finding value. And if you're Quick Esports, you'll take that any day of the week.
I will say, I mean, Nepal definitely kind of favors the more ground and pound style. Yeah. Very close quarters objectives on both Village and Shrine, where the 2 sub-maps Quick are able to win, pulling out their Ramatra here. But Quick also have, I mean, we know that they've got the ability to match in the hazard, if not surpass. I'm really curious how Frosttails tries to answer this fight. This fight was really where Frosttails lost it. Like, I love the aggression, but why did you spend 4 ultimates?
Yeah, it was I think way too expensive, right? Like, the sound barrier was the one thing that I was like, okay. I mean, at that point you kind of have to use it and you have to go all in because the fact that Dip was coming in with the Dragon Blade, like, you don't want to lose completely that fight because you've committed so much already. But yeah, from a macro perspective, that fight was just like a complete disaster. Like, they were really lucky that Dip got a little bit too over aggressive and that like one pick came through, but they were just so far behind the 8 ball when it comes to economy. Like, 2 support ultimates usually is going to beat 1 no matter what in that regard. So I just really like the way that Quick Esports played. I also like Willis on the Ramatra, because I think Ramatra kind of does the thing that, like, against Winston, it's very good being able to throw down that vortex and basically you can't dive out of it. And that's if they're going to be able to focus down that that hazard effectively in those, and not even like, I mean, I don't even think you need to get kills necessarily on the hazard. It's great if you do, but just like putting down that pressure and just like forcing out so many cooldowns, if the hazard's also diving away and not using that cooldown effectively to like make that engagement, take that space away, then you're feeling fantastic if you're Quickie.
I mean, in Vortex, you can just eliminate that option, which we saw, we saw Willis able to do, where the Vortex just doesn't even give you the ability. And then it's, then Crocs has a tough decision to make. They can't jump out usually. More often than not was ending up dead, just trying to force up the block. Yeah. But yeah, really smart play. Willis continues to impress. Every single map, Willis continues to impress. Such a joy to watch.
I'm very impressed with, and I think now the thing that I'm going to be looking out for Frosttail Esports is like, okay, where do we go from here? Because they seem like a team that was like very effective playing the hazard. There is that Junker Queen that we do have to talk about because it did get banned on that map in particular, and I think that is something that Crooks is very good at and can make it a little bit easier to maneuver around. It's not something that just gets kind of obliterated by Ramatra. It actually, I think, performs probably pretty well into Ramatra, all things considered, because you can be a little bit more aggressive. You aren't just like, at the virtue of getting vortexed and then you're just like, oh, I can't play the game, I can't move or anything like that. So I think as we go to Servasa, which is going to be our next map, that is, with how enclosed it is, I think Junker Queen does rise in priority still a little.
Oh, I think that is a beautiful shout. I think it's exactly the game plan here from Frosttail. So that makes perfect sense. You know, grab the flashpoint map, go into the JQ, try to create a little bit of a different look. That is something Frosttails does very well. I mean, they do play a fairly wide variety of things. So I think that's a brilliant expectation. Now, I believe Willis will be able to. I don't know if they'll match it. I mean, they could. I think Willis does have the ability to match the JQ, but I think more often than not, if we do see the Junker Queen come out here, it's gonna be quick going more into the dive look and just trying to avoid it.
There's going to be a Juno ban that comes through. I think one of the interesting things, though, as well, is that we saw from Quick Esports, there were a couple of times where it's like they soaked up that pressure really well against like that high tempo play and high aggression that we saw coming in from Frosttail Esports there in that regard. And I think getting rid of the Juno is also great because Speed Ring, very good against Junker Queen. Like if Junker Queen's going to aggress, you just use the Speed Ring, you get out of there. Hanzo's going to be the other ban at the very end of this. That's interesting to me because I haven't seen too much Hanzo from Frosttail Esports. It was mostly that Sojourn. So maybe maybe these teams know something we don't. It is Grand Finals. Got to throw everything to the wind. But I think Juno, great ban from Frosttail Esports. If they are going to be going for the Junker Queen in particular, Speed Ring, if you see the Junker Queen shout at you, you're like, Speed Ring, we're out. We're piecing. Get out of it. We don't want to be in the I call Junker Queen comps like T-Rex comps where they have like tiny little arms and you don't want to get caught. So if you get caught by the tiny T-Rex arms, you're gonna get eaten. But if you can get away from them with Juno, it's really effective. So I think it's a great ban from Frosttail.
I will say I've been seeing a lot with the Junker Queen what I've been calling the Mach 5 comp, where they run Lucio Juno with it. And so you get speed, you get Lucio, Juno, and Junker Queen all provide speed to the rest of the team. That has been actually pretty popular backline to run with the JQ, particularly on Flashpoint and Push. So that edge of the equation is still interesting, but I think Frosttails tend to go into the Lucio Curie for that anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what I was also expecting, where it's like, okay, if we're banning Juno, we're probably Lucio Curie more so than anything else, especially if it is going to be that Junker Queen that we're talking about. Maybe they just, they could also still play Hazard, but based on what I've seen so far from Frosttail in the previous series, they do feel like they really are high priority on that Junker Queen in particular. So we'll see exactly what's going to be happening as we go to Servasa. This is the map pick for Frosttail. So now, I mean, if you're Quick Esports, if you win this map, think about it in the Grand Final, you break serve completely. Because you've beaten them on their Hazard comp, you've beaten them now on their Junker Queen comp, which would be incredible, because I think you could consider that the Junker Queen might be Frosttail's best composition, and then if you're Frosttail, you're like, well, what do we do now?
5, 4.
Quick sit with the philosophy of, if you haven't beaten it, we're not going to change it. Zydra with the cast. Willis is on the Ramattra once again. We are, in fact, seeing Croc show us that JQ with the Lucio Curie. No unexpected anything here as both of our teams will approach the stairs for this first fight.
I do like that Dip is going to be on this Pharah as well, being able to put on a lot of spam. There's not really a lot of mitigation coming in from Frosttail Esports composition. It's just going to be off the basis of the geometry. A nice knife pulls in Willis, and this could be a moment where Chris can get a little aggressive. Pack is already down, though.
Yep, Dip is able to just find this angle. Frosttail is trying to stage at the bottom of the stairs, and it's just fish in a barrel here for Dip.
Yeah, I mean, this Pharah pick worked so well. Like, Pack walked into that fight at half health because they aided direct right to the face, and Quick Esports, I mean, playing so effectively right now that the Junker Queen composition wasn't able to get those tiny T-Rex arms into the teeth of Quick Esports, and this is going to be, like, Zydra and Dip are going to have a great time just continuously spamming down right now because there is no mitigation, no shielding like I talked about against this Junker Queen composition, and you have to play it around cooldowns relatively slow. Like, if you don't have your speed, you can't get to this Quick Esports composition.
Quick is just going to play down this long sight line with Willis holding up front. You see a couple of Quick players, including Dip, on the high ground, trying to stay elusive. That's exactly where Keo would like to find the shots. Ooh, it's Crocs who gets it! Keo forces Dip off of the high ground, and Crocs catches them as they were falling back down low. Beautiful pick, and that's all that they needed. Keo's going to leverage that in a couple more. We get a flip here.
Yeah, that's one of the things you're going to have to be seeing is Keo really start to farm on this Sojourn with the amount of space that's going to be given. There's some mitigation with shields from Willis, but if you can find those headshots like we saw, and then the rest of the team can follow up on it, that's really where you're going to see Frosttail Esports get some values. Dip's actually going to forego the Pharah completely, offer the Genji to get a little bit more survivability. I think that's a good decision, especially on this part of the map in particular, where it's a little bit more enclosed. Now you can play the Genji, you're not at threat of just getting railed exactly and then just getting taken out by the rest of the team.
Gonna try to here to start things off. Contender Rush is it for Frosttails. On the low ground, mind you, back towards that choke. So not on the objective as one might expect. Keo under a lot of pressure. I mean, just got run down. That was 3 quick esports players that just blitzkrieged Keo out of the corner, who had an OC in the pocket, by the way. Yoham with a interesting kind of self-serving Kitsune Rush there in the back of this 4v4. Dip and Yoham are going to tilt the balance. Give the point back over to Quick.
He's at the 90% though, so this is going to be the last fight for both of these teams with how quick it's going to be ticking up for. And it is going to be a support ultimate advantage just a little bit right now. You can see Natsuki 80% towards that sound barrier. Gogo should have it in this next fight, so that's going to be a little bit of an advantage in terms of time. Natsuki needs to find a way to get to this sound barrier in time, or else FACEIT Esports is just going to overwhelm Quick Esports with their ultimate economy here.
Let's go first. You
oh, that's
oh, you just... No, Willis just vanished in the blink of an eye.
Wait, Zyger took Gogo, that means there's no sound barrier.
Yeah, the sound barrier's off the table. I was just thinking the same thing. This is going to give Natsuki and Quick Esports a chance to get back in this thing despite not having a tank, but they can't get back onto the point. Natsuki gets cut down just before they make it back.
It was such a close. I mean, that sound barrier was not going to be there. And actually, if anything, Bullskunk, it's going to benefit Frosttail that they didn't have to use that sound barrier in that team fight, because now they're going to have it to match the one that Natsuki's coming out. So maybe a little bit of an advantage with that kill ending up happening. But FACEIT Esports going to be having 4 ultimates in this next fight. It's going to be a lot of particle effects here that we're going to be seeing from both these teams. But they're going to be fighting into the teeth of an annihilation, and that's where it gets a little bit spooky for Frosttail if they want to make a super aggressive engagement.
Yep, the fortunate for Frosttails. A little serendipity. Get us in the huge advantage. Up to the high ground, gonna go Zyger with a Deadeye once again, trying to control some space that Willis is immediately gonna move in and solidify. This is gonna give a free first cap over to Quick Esports, but expect a quick retaliation. Keo with the overclock to try to start that off. Natsuki still holding on to this sound barrier. The annihilation has been thrown in from Willis. Quick is trying to get in the face and just put a chokehold down right in this small area. Willis gets cut down though. Overextends. The sound barrier perfect from Gogo. Well timed, well placed. The Yoham low on the outside, and Frosttails return. That mid-fight prowess showing its ugly head.
Yeah, now there is going to be a Kitsune Rush available for FACEIT Esports to kind of match what Quick Esports going to bring to the table. I think Natsuki is just holding on to this sound barrier just to match against something like a Dragon Blade or match against the Junker Queen Rampage, because if you don't have any defensive ultimates to deal with Rampage, with how enclosed these fights have been with the composition that we're seeing from Quick Esports, it is going to do a lot in terms of taking you down. But Crocs get taken down super low.
Is able to get out of there, trying to go chase. Gogo Dip is there with the leg to converge. Woo! Rampage now comes in, hits 4! The sound barrier from Natsuki is there, exactly as anticipated, but now do you have anything to fit off Pax Blade? Plat's cut through Natsuki, chasing Willis around the fountain, just slash after slash into the back of the Ramatra.
Fantastic ultimate rotation as well from FACEIT Esports, using that Rampage early, and with only 4 members of Quick Esports available, forcing out that sound barrier, and then immediately Pac follows up, cleans the fight with a great Dragon Blade. And that's going to be FACEIT Esports taking a 2nd point, and they're looking very clean right now. It's no wonder they picked this map, and no wonder they're picking the Junker Queen.
And if Natsuki is strictly going to hold sound barrier for Rampage, then Frosttails know how to play around that. I mean, I feel like Gogo made that read and beat early because of it. I mean, it gives Frosttails, I think, a huge advantage, just knowing exactly when Natsuki's going to pull the trigger. Here comes a shout, trying to chase Quick Esports onto this point, looking for Precious first control, with Keo fighting Yoham. It looks like this is in hands of Frosttails. They're able, well, I said that. As I said, they're going to avoid the Deadeye. Crux steps out in front of the Deadeye.
I mean, they're trying their best. Susu's actually used. It's very good to keep Yoham alive for a little bit, but is it going to be enough? Kiwi is just absolutely popping off right now on this Kiriko. Willis will be taken down. No supports left for Quick Esports. Actually, Willis still standing, but Gogo's still here to give that healing over to the rest of the team. I don't know if Quick can win this. Never mind. Quick are turning it. Gogo goes down before sound barrier is available.
Yeah, the reinforcements showed up just at the nick of time. Still, Frosttails are looking to get first cap, but Quick Esports are coming in full force, and they're going to have, they're coming up on an overclock to work with. They're just going to flip this control right back. Frosttails have got to pause a moment and set up for this re-engage.
Yeah, but they know they have an advantage with support ultimates. Here comes also the overclock just to create that space. Keo looking on the flank, almost takes on Zyger, finally gets it.
2 shots, Zydra's down. Now turning back onto the point, a low Willis just buying time, but the inevitable kills come through, and Frosttails with a flawless fight here.
Yeah, really like that decision making as well. Using that overclock just to kind of create that space for the team. Just gets one pick, and that means you can keep your support ultimates in this next fight. And we've seen how good Frosttail have been at rotating them effectively, and actually some aggressive positioning here. I think they're going to try and catch Quick Esports off guard as they make this rotation.
Very good rotation. But Pac a bit isolated, was trying to get to the rest of that blade. Did have the Annihilation come in and try to fend off this Kitsune rush as fight kind of taking place in market, now starting to migrate back over to the objective. It's Frosttails who back away after losing Keo.
Yeah, they had to trade. I mean, Frosttail had to use the Kitsune rush, and they used it really early, so now it's going to be a re-engage from Quick.
And Johan's Kitsune rush is directly over the objective. This is going to get a free flip forward for them. Hoping to get some exit picks, trying to chase down Crocs here on the outside. Gotta be careful. Crocs does have this range page. I think he's just trying to bait in.
Stunned out!
Stunned! No way! Now the blades for Zip to capitalize on this. Pac, go, everybody invested, and Quick still comes up with the win.
Zydra coming in super clutch with the stun. That Rampage got absolutely nothing. It's going to be flipped back over for Quick Esports, who don't get... I mean, if that Rampage hits, that means it was going to be a completely different fight, because that means Crocs is still in there. You're able to potentially rotate your ultimates more effectively with the Dragon Blade after that, but no, Suri, says Zydra, who has a high noon to create that time and space for the team to zone off this point and cap it.
Got hit by the knife. Oh, it gets hit by the railgun. No Deadeye into this fight. 4v5 for Quick. Block up, Nemesis 4 being used, and Willa still just cannot stay alive through it. Frosttails is going to take this at 93%. Quick Esports with no options. They have to fight this 3v5. Natsuki just flails into death. Frosttails are going to close this one out. You can see why they picked Saravasa.
Yeah, see why they picked Saravasa, and see why Crocs is on that Junker Queen and why it was banned in that first map. I mean, that was literally, that fight, the knife onto the Cassidy. If that doesn't happen, it looks completely different, because Cassidy's going to have high noon, you have that space to work with, but really good coordination and target selection. The knife comes in, the rail follow-up, fantastically played at the end there for Frosttail to win at a deficit, which is something that we talked about, Skunk. They are so good at in ultimate deficits, in man deficits. They are very good at just kind of finding these picks and finding ways to win a lot of the time. And that looked like the Frosttail that was, like, you know, made their way very quickly through the upper bracket, as opposed to what we saw on that first map where it was a little bit shaky. That one was convincing.
100% complete turnaround. I mean, the difference from Nepal and into their map pick of Saravasa is, I mean, well, that's the difference between a team losing and winning these grand finals, looking competitive here. I mean, this, if you just take it off of the small sample size of map one, you're thinking, man, Quicker look like head and shoulders the better team here in this matchup. But, I mean, you know what? You can say the same thing and flip that. I mean, we talked about just how important your map picks are, your hero bans are. I think put on brilliant display here with the smart pick from Frosttails. They're able to play into the Junker Queen, and now it is truly up to to find an answer. Well, I think finally get forced off of this Cassidy Ramatra look. I think they're going to have to change it up at this point.
I'll be super interested as well now that Juno's going to be available for the rest of the series. Like, because of the fact that I think that Juno does offer a lot to kind of maneuver around Junker Queen, you know, with the speed ring. I think if you can just, again, get away from the teeth of this Frosttail Esports composition with this Junker Queen, that's really where you can kind of find a lot of value to make Frosttail work for basically every single inch, force all their resources to kind of chase you, and then, you know, once they've used all their resources and they get to you, yeah, they get to you, but you are now just kind of caught. You're stuck on an island. So I think that that's going to be something I'm going to be looking out for, as well as the map, because Junker Queen's not going to work everywhere, right? Like, there are maps that are just going to be so much more favored for, like, high ground mobility. Hazard comes into play, Winston comes into play. I think that this was a perfect map for Junker Queen, and I think we'll probably see Frosttail Esports, if they do lose another map, pick another map that's, like, very favored to Junker Queen.
And this is where things are going to start to get interesting, particularly being a best of 7. Because, you know, we might anticipate that Quick Esports are going to play more high ground, perhaps, you know, go to Nambani, Dorada. Oh, that stun was so gorgeous. Yeah. That was frame perfect. That was insane. But then, you know, might expect I saw that too. And then might expect the push map to come out, you know, might see the control map to come out and play a little bit more of where the Junker can be strong, and this really might just end up in a battle of picks and bans is where this series is decided.
And it looks like we do have Route 66 as our next map. So this is a map where it's like, okay, Junker Queen can work. I think on third in particular, like gets a good amount. You can pilot it through first. It is difficult though, because you know, if you're on big girls, you kind of just can hold that high ground, and it's like walking into no man's land in World War I, right? You got to get through a lot of shots to be able to get to that other trench. So I think that this is a good map pick for Quick Esports to kind of negate what, if it is the Junker Queen that was so impactful, which it looked like it. I mean, Crooks looks fantastic on it. So I think that this is a great map pick for them. Bring in probably that ability to play more of the hazard, more to what their style is, and not having to play against the Junker Queen, I think, is probably the bigger thing that I would be thinking if they're picking this map.
And you gotta remember, I mean, Junker Queen has the lowest health pool of any of the tanks. I'm fairly confident. It's either, I think Junker Queen is 25 below Zarya, if memory serves. So that poke damage coming in is so... the percentage on a Junker Queen is, you know, you take a couple shots out of a railgun, suddenly you're at half health, right? Whereas opposed to a Ramacha, you take a couple shots from a railgun and you're still, you know, 2/3, 3/4 of your health bar.
You can also just cross your arms and you're too angry to die, right? Like
exactly, yeah, then it's unkillable. So it's, I mean, just that extra little bit of poke damage that you can get onto a Junker Queen is so immense. I mean, it means if you get there with no resources, like you were talking about, even with cooldowns, same, you know, applies to your health bar as well. You have no cooldowns, you have no health bar by the time you actually close the gap. Suddenly, your teeth have been very much dulled, even if you do have them in your little TA Rex arms.
Yeah, that's why I'd be surprised if we saw it. I mean, I think it's not, you know, it's April Fool's patch because we have the googly eyes, but you can't jump as Junker Queen anymore. So it's not the April Fool's game mode here in the Grand Finals, thank God. But I think for the most part, this would be probably where I would expect... I would expect probably the hazard more so than anything else. The Winston definitely a possibility, I think, as well. But I think the Junker Queen kind of on Route 66 just goes more to the wayside, and then it becomes really like reliant on like creating that space for the DPS. Keo, I think, had a much better round in Cervasa this particular, and then like compared to what we saw on our first map where Keo was a little bit more silent. Is it on a ban for Quick Esports to start things off? So this tells me like they're trying to pigeon the Winston maybe a little bit. I mean, or that they're going to play Hazard, and there's actually FACEIT Esports going to ban Winston themselves. So I'm really thinking this is like we're like Diva Hazard pilled here, like for sure.
Yep. This is Lucio Curie, and then either Diva or Hazard. Probably each. Wouldn't surprise me to see Willis pick up the Diva and Crocs go into the Hazard.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, especially for Route 66. Now it's like if it is Route 66, I like long range hit scans start becoming a real possibility. So I think like Widowmaker starts to become possible, Ashby starts to become possible, and those are like really key picks that I think will make the difference if we do see that. I think Cassidy still can, still fine, especially with how good it's been being played so far. I think Cassidy still can come to the table a lot of the time. I think it just doesn't offer the same amount of like one-shot potential that you see. Offensive pressure that you see from like Sojourn, where it's like if you're hitting your shots on Cassidy as like forehead as it sounds, right, where it's like the hero is very good, right, but you have a little bit more of that like potential to just like turn fights instantly with Sojourn, which we've seen. One of the best benefits of FACEIT Esports is that when they can like turn fights really quickly on a dime, or just like win a fight very easily at the start with like a pick from Keo on the Sojourn.
I feel like the Cassidy is a little bit more counterplay kind of a pick. Where it's not so much the aggression, but it's like you set up on a high ground, what we've seen from Zydra, and you protect an area. So you're denying flankers from coming in, or you're denying an aggressive push from a tank, from a dive style tank. It's not so much of controlling angles as much. I mean, obviously you can still do that with the Cassidy, but compared to a Sojourn or even an Ashe, I don't feel like as much of aggressive controlling angles. And this is, you mentioned Keo before, and I really like that you brought up Keo's consistency, because I think this is the spot. Keo has a mean Ashe that is one of their best heroes, and this is the spot for Keo to really step up and have that great performance. No flakiness, no patchiness. Like, Keo needs to step up and just hit shot after shot here, and I think Frosttails have a really good chance of going up in this series.
So unfortunately, Bull Skunk, we have lied to the audience a little bit here. We talk only in hypotheticals. Unfortunately, Jedis unfortunately don't deal in hypotheticals. So we're gonna get you the right information that we're gonna be having here. It's gonna be a Lucio ban and a Diva ban, and we are on Dorado, I believe, instead of Route 66. So I hope you liked our little analysis of what's not gonna happen for this next map. So now we get to do some real analysis here, and I think this makes like Lucio Diva makes sense a little bit. I think in terms of like Dorado, I'm surprised surprised it's not still Winston, actually, with how good it is on this map. But I think that
Yeah.
taking it away from Willis, I think, is a big deal, because I think Willis's propensity probably to play the D.Va is a little bit like higher. I think Willis would want to pilot that more so than something like a Winston. So I think this is a really good ban kind of targeting on the side of Quick Esports. So we talked a little bit about Route 66, and now we're talking about Dorado. Some of the things still matter, where it's like long-range hit scans still work, but I think Cassidy still gets a lot of value on a map like this.
Yeah, Cassidy's a lot stronger on this map than on Route 66. I also like how the Dorado music felt like 3 times as loud. Like, we were just like, we're going to Dorado, okay? It's Dorado!
I didn't know there were peppers here. I play on like low graphics, so like whenever I see like prod like go to stuff, I'm just like, I didn't know any of this was here. I don't see it.
I'm looking at that going, who cuts a bell pepper with a cleaver?
So Chad, someone who I want to meet that person. I want to have a meal with that guy. Whoever's doing that.
You want an apple? Here, let me get out my machete. I'll cut it into slices for you.
Oh, dude, people who like go hiking and like cut apples with a knife, I'm just like, just eat it normally. Come on, like just take a bite out of it.
Just take a bite.
We know you have a knife. We know you have a knife. Okay, it's like cool.
It's dirty, you know. The knife is just filthy, you know.
But we do see kind of what. I mean, Crocs is going to be still on the Junker Queen, which I think, like, on this map in particular, when you have the ability to use that elevator, if there's no elevator, I don't think Crocs is playing this. I think the elevator really makes it able to hold this high ground, and it's going to be pretty easy for Kyo to just, like, stand up here. If anyone comes like and tries to make an aggression, you have that stun available to you with a flashbang grenade. You also just have Crocs, who's going to get a really good... who can get a lot of good carnages. But already, Dip has won the side lane battle against Pac.
And this is going to give Dip high ground access. Dip is going to use that to try to press up. Oh, and Yoham opens up on a kill to Kiwi as well. That's from the low ground, or did Yoham might have switched step up? Either way, flank control. In fact, the entire point A control is just here for quick.
Yeah, and that the matchup between Dip and between Pac is going to be incredibly important, because if one of the Tracers loses on the sideline, that just opens up the map very aggressively for Quick Esports there at the start. You saw Frosdale had to just try and buy back in, went near the spawn, didn't manage to find any picks because the speed ring placement was so good from Nitsuki just to maneuver everyone out of those sight lines, and Frosdale Esports going to try and get back onto this one to contest.
Kyo going over to... Kyo coming in on that side from the Cassidy, trying to play off that short flank angle, while Crocs moves in from the other to anchor onto the car. Kyo takes a lot of damage, just running deep into enemy territory, and Dip chases him down. It's a bit of a trade onto those Cassidys, but a nice hold in the back line. Willis and Natsuki bit off one they can shoot, trying to pursue some support. The Frosdales are going to hold.
That's a good stick.
Ooh, I say that!
I mean, Quick can come back into this one. It is a little bit spooky. Recall already forced from Dip, but the respawns are closer for Quick Esports here. Yoham does end up going down, but Quick Esports will come back onto this cart in time. Suzu used already aggressively, and Kiwi's going to end up going down.
Yeah, that pick on the Crocs was enormous. Quick get the respawns in. And it looks like the old Mater imitator. Oh, drawing close. Crocs trying to get back on, but that poke damage rearing its head there. That's a point on the board.
Dip is playing fantastic so far. Won the 1v1 against the Tracer at the start, and then gets that pick onto Crocs with that Pulse Bomb. If that Pulse Bomb isn't there, Crocs is able to just continuously stay in that team fight without that burst damage taking him down, and it's now Quick Esports who have a very good time bank moving forward. 4 minutes about for themselves to get through second. They have all control of this high ground, and actually Crocs is going to go over to that Hazard, which I think makes sense because you don't want to be playing Junker Queen here where high ground is so important.
I mean, even with the changes to the map and the stairwell, you still need to be able to just go up and down at will. Dada's going to buy a lot of space here from this high ground. Zadra tried to zone out Crocs. Coming back for the peel as Crocs goes in, hunting for a support, and just ends up flash fanned into spawn.
Yoham's a little bit of an aimer also. This has been 2 fights in a row where like Yohan has just found picks randomly on the side angle, not really playing with the team, playing more selfishly as, Pac, that was not where that dash wanted to go. Recall forced out, almost 5 health, almost taken out. That would have been one of the worst POV caster curses we could have seen right there.
Oh, I mean, you know what? You were bragging about Yoham, and Yoham almost just danced all over, just dismantled Pac on the Tracer. Now the Kitsune rush up in from the Kiri. Actually, dueling Kitsune rushes downpour into the back line. That catches Go-Go out of the air. What a downpour. Follow up onto Kiwi as well, and it's a beautiful fight here from Willis.
Quick are schmoving and grooving right now. They're looking swifty on this hazard composition, and they're the ones setting the tempo. It feels like Frosttail haven't really had a foothold throughout all of this, as we do have a pause because there is a disconnection. But like, to be honest, the way that Quick are playing overall, they're the ones who are going first. They're the ones who are getting picks first in like a lot of those neutral fights. Like the way that they're playing is so incredibly crisp right now. Yoham is like finding these picks out of nowhere. Pack is winning, or not Pack, Dip is winning the side lane matchups on the Tracer. Like, realistically, there hasn't been a point in this map where Frosttail feels like they've had a foothold. It's always been Quick Esports.
Not at all. I mean, tempo is being controlled. The map is being controlled. What ultimates are being used. Everything is being dictated by Quick Esports right now.
It's also a mechanical difference, I think, which is weird because Frost, like, looking at it, Frosttail, like, going into this felt like they were, in terms of just mechanics, the better team based on, especially with what we saw when they last played each other in that upper bracket final. Now Crocs is going to be going back over to the Drunken Queen. Makes sense on this part of the map because it is so enclosed. It's going to get a lot more value, but you have to defend for 4 minutes right here, and that's going to be a tall task even for a team as good as Frosttail Esports.
They're just sneaking in the backline, lands 3 shots, but can't quite put one on the dome of Kia, so they're able to survive with a little help from Crocs' shout. But now with that cooldown used, here comes Quick Esports. They're able to at least equalize. Defender's advantage on the spawns. Quick are going to get some loot off of this, but they're going to need more picks if they want to go any further. That's if we will deliver one onto Keo. Pack playing up dangerously close, gets that recall forced out. Quick Esports are able to kind of hold the line here as they wait for the reinforcements to return to complete this push.
Yeah, they're still holding their positioning, which is good for them. Now they will just eventually back out, but the cart is still moving pretty far, and now you have the high noon as well coming in from Zytra to zone out and try and take this high ground away.
Zytra was trying to get up to the top but couldn't quite make it. Crocs was running it all the way.
Oh!
Oh no! That might have just done it. Willis shuts down Gogo's ultimate, catches them out of the sky. No orbital, no extra healing, no extra damage. This is Quick Esports with a lot of reinforcements. I will say a good stall here at the end isn't enough to buy some time for the defense to get back.
Yeah, but they're walking into a downpour, and already just an aggressive dive from Willis, negating completely what this overclock is doing.
Yeah, Keo gets nothing from the OC, gets rooted. Oh, but Pack with the save. Despite being rooted, Pack and Keo come with a kill and might have just bought a lifeline from this Frosttail's defense.
Yeah, that felt like one where Willis was like, I'm the hero, I can do it, I have this really good downpour, but just did not respect the amount of burst damage potential coming in from the overclock at the very end, gets taken out very early in that team fight, and this defense, I mean, it was like a 4.5 minute time bank moving forward for Frosttail Esports, now dwindled down to only 2.5 minutes as Willis is taking a minute poke, but that means Yoham should be able to get towards the score.
Deadeye. Could have been an easy stick. Neither are going to land on much. Considering Rush does come out. Actually looked like Willis's jagged wall might have blocked a little bit of that. Oh no, it did make it all the way through. The return rush just goes down the stairwell. I'm not saying that's exactly where Quick would have liked it. So neither team getting max value out of their Confinity rushes. We're kind of back into a neutral. Oh, Rampage gets stuck on the cart. Still you get Natsuki with that somehow. Well, Willis is never going to respond. Now the pressure is on. Low health bars, no supports. It's just DPS left standing here for Frosttail. Blade out as an exclamation point. Ooh, might have been too soon.
Yeah, I think Dip was actually looking for the reset there, but Willis took it away before the slash could come through, so you weren't able to get that, secure that pick. Pack does end up going down, but that's bought enough time for the rest of Frosttail Esports to try and respawn and stall this cart.
Quick Esports still have plenty of reinforcements here, but they have no more ultimates left. In fact, this is going to be a very dry fight here in front of the Frosttail spot. Continues early. Keo trying to push into the hallway. Goes face to face with Yoham. We'll win it out. Yoham has been so lights out good. Gets put in their place by Keo.
Yeah, if Pac doesn't make that play there on the Tracer going into the backline, stalling the cart, this fight looks completely different. Also, if Dip was able to get that reset and hold that blade for a little bit longer, that might have been a difference maker. And now 60 seconds left. That's all that's left for Quick Esports here. Respawns are so much closer for Frosttail Esports. They have the ultimate advantage as well. It's really only a downpour from Willis, and going into an orbital ray, I don't even think that's going to be enough. And then at the back end of that, an overclock really just turns the fight completely.
Bit of a 2-3 split. And you see Dip and Yoham pushing up towards Mega side with Willis trying to provide some oversight. Take some poke damage and force to drop back down. Gogo's going to go ahead and throw in the orbital early. giving chance for Quick to just disengage, kind of hide in some cover, perhaps use a couple of cooldowns. Now, what are you gonna have to counter punch with? Give me the overclock in. Willis throws down the downpour. That's going to catch at least one in it, but Keo's able to fit him off. Oh no! Willis still jumps through the overclock to find a kill on the Kiwi. Give the player advantage over to Quick. We're down to less than 10 seconds on the clock. Dip into the hallway. He's going to find a kill on the Go-Go. Dash picks up Keo as well. Nasty play here out of Dip. Beautiful three-piece in the waning seconds of Quick's attack. Might just deliver the point. The blade here. You're going to give me the ace? Oh, you're going to chase it down. Willis will get Kiwi. Still have Pack trying to run away. Dip won't get the ace, but will get the point on the board.
Dip with a nasty deflect onto Keo right there. Return to sender on that rail shot. And I mean, for Frosttail Esports, I like the idea of like going super aggressive with that orbital ray and like just creating that space, but they needed to find a pick there. Like that was all that was needed for them right there. They wanted to find a pick. I think their thought process was we either find the pick or we're going to wait until the re-engagement from Quick Esports, and then we're going to use overclock, and then they're going to kind of be walking into our arms. But a fantastically placed downpour just sectioned off the team fight completely. Overclock got no value, and then Willis got that pick onto the Kiriko. There was no Suzu, no ability to keep the Juno alive, and then it was just a reset after reset for the Genji. Really, really clutched up from Quick Esports at the very end there, which is something that we think that's like what Frosttail was known for. Now it's Quick Esports who are doing it to them.
They did take all of their time back. So, you know, there's a hope there for the Frosttails fans out there. Is at least Frosttails were able to gobble up the 4.5 minute time bank coming in. But you got to cap it out now.
Yep. I mean, there is a win condition set, right? And Dorado, to be fair, is like it's a hard map to cap. I mean, especially when you go onto third. I mean, that was like a 4 minute time bank that got dwindled down to nothing. So, you know, it's very difficult some of these times. But we will see, I think. One of the things I'm very interested in is like when we're going to see Croc switch off, because like I think on first it like works, especially with elevator, like you should be able to get this high ground totally fine, but like beyond that, like where are we going to be seeing the Junker Queen maneuvering? Because on second it's going to be very hard to pilot.
Slow and steady, just played off Loco right now. We've had a little bit of trips up to the high ground, but Willis is doing a good job of controlling the red roof at the moment. Zydra, the real one you got to watch out for. You see the duel between the Cowboys. As long as Zydra's up on that high ground, Frosttails cannot step out into the street.
Yeah, and I think this is good for Quick Esports, especially if you get a pick onto the Kiriko. That means that's a lot of healing lost, and you're just trying to get as much time as possible. And for Frosttail Esports composition, they have to play it really slow because they don't have an engage button to just get in. They have to do these long rotations, try and find that high ground through the other side, and that just leaves a lot of time for Zydra and for Dip to spam and potentially find a pick.
Frosttails have used one cooldown rotation to get a couple players up top, and here comes the attack down low. Crocs finds Zydra to clear off that high ground, and Dip has been thwarted in the attack on the support. So far, everything looks good here for Frosttails to get through the opening leg of point A. You still have Willis to deal with it at 63 health. Yeah, there's the finish.
They're just trying to die on card and stall as much as possible. They will get one last recontest if they die quickly, which they will end up being. And this is gonna, I mean, this is like a good start for Quick Esports here, being able to hold that long. 1 minute and 30 seconds taken off the clock. But now that we're out of this high ground potential and we're more on like even ground, this is where the Junker Queen's gonna start getting a lot of value, and those knives and those carnages in this enclosed area can really set the tempo of a lot of these fights.
Deadeye. Gonna go ahead and pop that immediately. Try to hold this.
Can they get on
the left side? Knows Dip is gonna sneak it. Dip dashes in. Able to get this. Oh, no, yeah. Shows us that impeccable accuracy. Taking Keo down, and Crocs never stood a chance.
Yoham on this Kiriko has been phenomenal so far, farming up this Kitsune Rush a little bit earlier than Kiwi. Kiwi did die, so that's a little bit unfair of a comparison, but that pick onto the high noon, the dash also from Dip getting onto point before it even passed that line, past the capture. This is where I'm really worried for Frosttail Esports, because they have to work so hard to get through a lot of these chokes now, and there's so much spam potential that Quick Esports have, and there's only 1 minute and 40 seconds left that you have, and you're having to use speed ring to like get through. Now you're gonna have to use shout. Like, you have to rotate these cooldowns effectively, and you have to take a lot of time to get back onto this card.
You gotta wait for those cooldowns to come back before you can engage. Pack has managed to sneak in on this right-hand side. Read by Dip. He's going to have to give up on this flank for now. Comes back in the mid, but the finish has been invested, as well as the Rampage. Rampage is going to find two. Dip with the blade. No health. Pack is able to land one. Crocs lighten up the feed. And Frosttails win the old fight they needed here and push this one over the line.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, the Kitsune was not there to deal with this rampage coming in from Crocs. It was able to take down Zydra, who died very early in that fight. Really well played from FrostTail Esports, knowing that they had to wait for their cooldowns effectively. They rotated really well, didn't let Zydra get into an area where you could just continuously spam into the team. Really like what I saw from them. And Crocs is actually going to be sticking over onto this Junker Queen because they do have control of the high ground for now. It's really going to be about them trying to keep it here, but that's a nice engagement from Willis.
There's just one little boop, and it sends half the team back down to the low ground. It gets messy. FrostTails are thriving through this chaos, though. Big slice sends Natsuki back. All right, we're going to continue rolling.
Yeah, and Kyo's starting to actually, like, warm up a little bit. I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing so far. It feels like it's been Zydra so far on the Cassidy, but now Kyo getting a lot of value, and it does work out really well against the Hazard as well, because when these engages come through, you can hinder. It's very effective that way. And now you're gonna have to fight on cart against this team of the Junker Queen, and that's gonna be super difficult right now at some point.
It's funny how, you know, all this high ground. Well, all the theory goes out the window. Willis just assassinates Kyo 3 seconds into the fight. Big rotation from FrostTails as they retreat.
And now they're going to have to start going through this, like, this World War I trench and to get back onto the high ground. Luckily, there are the stairs, so it makes it a little bit more palatable for them to try and retake this. But 2 minutes left for them as they move forward. Nice knife. Can pull back Willis. So desired, but just waiting patiently. Yoham again on the flank. Playing very, very selfishly, but it's working out relatively well.
Not often you see a carry on a 1-4 flag.
Yeah, Teru.
Jedi for the absent high ground. Yeah, that little. Ooh, that's a score.
Oh!
Zydra! Come on, bud.
That was an ego peak. That was an absolute ego peak.
Yeah. I'm at a loss for words with that one. I did not expect Zydra or Cassidy Master just to stick a head on and go, hey, what's going on over there?
Yeah, that was ego. I mean, that was a high noon as well. Like, Zydra was thinking, I'm going to beat this high noon. Easy peasy, but Kyo comes out on top. I think it's the Spark skin that's really what did it there, channeling Shy. As it's going to be Quick Esports, who now, I mean, this is disastrous for them because this is where the Junker Queen gets the most value probably at any point on this map. This Junker Queen gets to control a little bit of high ground. It's so much more enclosed, and this is really where FrostTail Esports can start taking it to Quick Esports.
Downpour is going to catch Kyo. They are able to trade one out. Big guy from Crocs is going to give the edge back over. I'm going to check the 4 kill feed. 3 for 3 left on this point. Knife lands. Axe lands. Torpedoes with a heal. Willis is able to find Pee-wee despite being super low on health. They ignore the Junker Queen and try to cut the sustain out from underneath the comp. And I think it succeeds. Despite the fact that Crocs is coming up with kills, they've run out of reinforcements.
Without Willis here, I think they have to retreat just a little bit. They do have both of their healers alive to keep, you know, just dipping onto the cart with dip, but you are going to need Willis back in if you want to try and come back to contest this. And there is another rampage, so you're going to be looking out for that Suzu, specifically from Yoham. Can you negate what this rampage is going to bring? Because in such an enclosed area, it should get a lot of value.
The rampage is going to hit 3. I don't see any cleanse. Yeah, they do get it in, but it's too late to save Natsuki, which means you're not going to get an orbital into this fight. Quick just evaporating off of this point. FrostTails have snapped their fingers, and, well, they took down more than half the team. They took down the entirety of Quick.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's even going to be a contest here. It's getting close. They should be able to potentially with stall picks, but they got to go now.
Yeah, it's going to be fast.
Tracer?
It's gonna be close.
Genji's dip is there. Dip is there.
Jedi from the high ground. That was cool. Orbital Ray coming out. Nice kill. It's Yoham. Of course it's Yoham who delivers the clutch pick for Quick.
So clutch, but I mean, it is going to be scary here coming into this next fight because now that means that Gogo has the orbital ray advantage and you can just walk in to this point. But again, with kind of how Junker Queen is operating, you have to walk through so much spam. And Yoham takes down Pack. That's a big pick. That means that by the time we get to this next fight, Bullskunk, it's last fight territory. There's no other fight that they're going to get. They need to win this one, and they're going to try and push a little bit more aggressive to get that space for their DPS to find a pick. And High Noon is committed. That's Zydra, another High Noon that's just so aggressive.
It does not pay off at all. Willis at 1 health is going to get taken down.
What are they?
This feels so bizarre because, I mean, FrostTail already have players on the point. They're already starting to put some pressure here. Are we going to get a recontest? Was that just a total feed out of Quick? We've got the Summer coming back from the Zydra. Is going to get taken down immediately. Orbital way over the point is enough. We're headed to extras.
I don't know about that one, man. That was, I can understand the idea where it's like, we got this one pick on the pack. We like need to push our advantage. We're so close, but like they could have just walked back into their spawn and been like, okay, we took like the one pick, we should be totally fine. They probably knew they were at ultimate disadvantage, which was the thing where it's like, because we don't have orbital ray, and they probably knew that the other team did, maybe we could catch them off guard, force an orbital ray in their spawn. But that fight just went completely awry with Zydra going down with that high noon. I mean, I think that was just a very strong gamble from Quick Esports that didn't pay off for them.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, it does make sense if they're making the reads on the ultimates. They're like, that's their only choice. We have to play first. That was 100%. But they so overextended.
Yeah, I mean, I get it where it was like it worked out probably the worst way it could have, right? Like that, I understand the idea, but it could not have gone worse. Like that was the worst case scenario where they just completely fall apart. If they like trade 1 for 1, then like yeah, it starts getting a lot better there. But they did like the fact that Zydra went down during that high noon, like immediately the fight was just like it was over at that point.
Oh, well, Quicker back on the attack was they have 19 fewer seconds of time bank. Dip with an opening shot towards this top high ground. Was hoping to catch a Juno peak and no such. Block the Frosttails are too wise to fall for that one. Gets over to the Genji. How much can you get done in 1 minute here on a very difficult point? Dorado. Now, who's going to determine who takes the lead in this series? It's Yoham. Of course it's Yoham. It's always Yoham with first blood. Making second blood too.
Yoham is playing at an extremely high level on this Kiriko. I mean, to be fair, Yoham is also like benefiting significantly off of Zydra. Zydra is hitting so many headshots. Like every time I look at the health bars from FACEIT Esports and Zydra has openings to like get this value, they're at like half health, they're at three-quarter, they're at like a quarter health. Like every headshot seems to be hitting from Zydra, and you can see the difference between Zydra and Keo and how much value they've been getting so far. And this is already a good push, I mean, with just a minute left.
Will's in a bit of trouble, so it has to be used to get the tank out of that tight little hallway. Keo's going to rotate around towards Mega to see if they can find access to the back line. Meanwhile, Croc moves up front. Dip keeping him at bay. Both of those players rotating meat on the point. Willis has found Keo, I believe, in that right mini room. Dip's still doing that. He's been able to keep Crocs at bay. Good job for a Genji, able to hold off the Hazard for as long as they had. Now Hazard trying to roll out, see if they can deal with Pack, but Crocs has managed to find entrance into Yoham. Take one of those deadly players off quick. Let Dip and Willis respond. Zydra lights up the feed. This is a 4th point on the board here for Quick.
Yeah, you can see Keo is like completely foregoing the Cassidy right now, just going over to that Sojourn just to offer a little bit more mobility to get away from these very aggressive dives. Because Willis is putting a lot of pressure onto Keo when they're on the Cassidy, and you know, the flashbang works a little bit, but if you're just using that defensive, you can't really take down the Hazard throughout all that. So this is, I mean, at this point, if you're Quick Esports, anything you get after that first point cap with how much time you have left is gravy.
Gonna buy some. Oh, that one landed. Oh, Zydra, you could have canceled and rolled. Did not react fast enough. Down 4 over the top. Ooh, blocked by the jagged wall. Nicely done. Dip is gonna pull out a blade. He's able to find Keo. It's low, about 25 health for Dip with the end of that blade. Crocs is just dueling it out in a 1v4. Here comes the reinforcements from the Frosttails defense. Pack taking out some of the sustain with that kill on Takiri. Willis very low, hiding off the outside. Orbital ray on the point. Willis wasn't anywhere close. He's going to go down. Considering rush from the defense and a player advantage from Frosttails. Should give him the edge here. Zydra low after flipping over to Tracer, trying to get back onto this point. Natsuki is down. You only have close to a Kitsune Rush. Yeah. Go ahead and throw it out. Willis returning, but this feels like insurmountable odds here for Quick to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, Pac cuts up super well during this team fight, specifically being able to take... I mean, actually, the picture being traded, there is a respawn advantage here. The deflect... Oh, my God, Dip. Oh Dip actually slices and dices. They're going to win this team fight.
Dip just won a 2v5. Pac is able to take them down at 1 health, but the reinforcements are in for Quick. That was literally a 2v5.
That's insane. I mean, again, the respawns are so much closer here for Quick Esports. They're going to be able to get back into this one. Down 4, available for Crocs, but... what a play from Dip.
Unbelievable. Like you say, this is all just bonus meterage here for Quick Esports. Now they've got all 5 back on the table, and I say that Dip is in a bit of trouble trying to regroup the rest of the team. There's that downpour in from Crocs and the pulls out, netting a pair of kills here for Frosttails. I don't think there's any coming back from this one, but man, Dip was able to buy some very important meterage to get around that first corner. That could be the difference maker here on Dorado.
I mean, that's like, I think it's like 15 meters. I'm not really, math is not my strongest subject there. But like I mean, that was a pretty good chunk of the map that was actually captured by Dip just literally like clutching up a 2v5 fight, like with that deflect. It was complete, like, because there was, at that point, the respawns were so much closer for Quick Esports, and yeah, they ended up losing the team fight after because Crocs used the downpour, but I mean, if Dip doesn't get that, that could be a difference maker, like you mentioned. Quick Esports just capping first with a minute left and how well they played that, like, that's already enough for them to try and get this win condition.
And that corner, that first corner of point B, can be so difficult. Like, that's such a pivotal spot. So to be able to get fully around that corner, I think, is a huge deal. Even if it doesn't look like much, you know, in the meterage up top, you know, with that box of victory sitting where it is versus, you know, being at a 90-degree angle at the base of the stairs, that feels like a monstrous difference.
You also got to be perfect as well, because that's like the other, like, with a minute and 19 seconds, you don't have any room for, you know, losing team. You like one maybe, like you have room to maybe lose like one team fight if it's very quick and like very early in like a fight like this. But like beyond that, if you're FACEIT Esports, you've got to play perfectly from here on out to try and get to that win condition in the box of victory. As I wonder what Crocs is going to be playing here, because I think the Junker Queen is viable, but it is going to be the hazard against. They're opting into the mirror, and I think if you're Quick Esports, you're totally fine playing a mirror like this, not against the Junker Queen.
I think it's interesting they're rolling out with the Juno on, running out with a double flex support look, so no carry here. You know, provide any flank control or, you know, a little bit more high ground back and forth. Yeah, with a good opener there. Needs to get hot if FrostTails want to take the 2-1. Already about 30 seconds have been eaten off the minute, 20 on the clock. Yoham going up and
whoa!
Loses the duel Kiwi. That's not what you wanted if you're a Quick fan.
That's also not something we've seen. We've usually seen Yoham win those. Zydrez manages to find 2 in the back end, but it's not going to matter. It's just going to be all the positioning available for FACEIT Esports, and they're going to start breaking this defense down. Now it's going to be Quick Esports getting back and getting one last recontest here. Not a lot of ultimates to talk about in terms of what we have. Pack is really, like, farming this pulse bomb relatively quickly. Should be able to get it in this next fight, actually. But it's just going to be coming down to the neutral fight between both of these teams as we get to this defensive end.
It's like a full approach from left. No, as I said that, it is actually a split dip coming in on the left-hand side, trying to full of flank. Is it very deep? It looks like another 2v5. Yoham's going to go ahead and switch step out. Zydra and Willis collapsing from the other side. Quick just absolutely pounded FrostTails into the dirt. That was collapsing from all angles. Everybody finding the picks. A flawless final fight from Quick Esports to claim Dorado in the 2-1 lead.
Great target selection, and Dip, I mean, deserves so much credit, I think, for this Genji play throughout what we've seen so far. Just perfectly played, controlling those side ankles very effectively. I mean, Pack is no slouch on the Tracer, but Dip on the Genji just really, really effective in controlling those side angles and making it difficult for FACEIT Esports to ever get control. And it felt like they were always like, even in that last fight, they were just pincered into that side room, and that felt like it was just an amalgamation of the entire map, where it was just them continuously trying to get out of these trenches that were being set up very effectively by Quick Esports. And Dip, I mean, that one play, the clutch that we saw, it didn't end up mattering too much in like just the end of everything, but it still kind of showed how impactful the Genji was throughout that entirety of the series.
It was still impressive to watch. Yeah, I mean, if anything, you're sending a message. You know, you're sending a message to FrostTails that anybody on this team can be dangerous. And Quick Esports have the advantage in all aspects.
Do we call those orbital jaxes? Like, what do we call it? Is it orbital jacks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Beam jacks, I suppose.
Yeah. Beam jacks is good. I like that one too. But yeah, I don't see those too often. But there was one. I think the other thing that was so interesting about this is that, like, the Junker Queen obviously like had a hard time like being piloted on a map like this because it's so like, you know, favored towards, you know, high ground and vertical mobility, and like it managed to get some value some of the time. But now I'm like, when I'm thinking about FACEIT Esports going into these other maps, they are probably going to be thinking more like maps that are very, you know, low ground, very horizontal in terms of what we're going to be seeing, because I think that they don't want to be opting into this hazard matchup. I think it's something Quick Esports are like totally fine opting into because it feels like their comfort for the most part.
Well, we're going to take a little break before we get into map 4. FrostTails will have the pick when we come back. We'll give them a minute to figure it out. We'll see how they respond. Quick Esports up 2-1. Don't go anywhere. Your Master Division Grand Finals will return in just a few minutes.
Sorry I'm late. Let's do this.
Widow's up top.
I'm on point, dude.
Genji, you want Nino?
Okay, guys, lock in. It's overtime.
Let's stagger, let's stagger.
On me, on me, on me. Yeah, I'm dead.
Down.
My ult's ready.
Xander.
Dead.
Pushing, I'm pushing.
No, pull back.
Hold card, we're down. That was so bad.
Yeah, we suck. Yep.
Let's try something new.
Diving backline.
No, I'm dead.
Widow's down.
Matrix, back
Oh,
ult.
no.
I got pulse bomb.
Back on cart. Come on, back on cart.
Oh, going in.
Stop the cart. Stop the cart.
Oh my god! Ah! Go to world! Do you see that? Ah!
Making their OWCS World Finals debut, please welcome to the stage, Team Phoenix!
Are you ready?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Dorado went to extras. It was as close as it could be, but Quick come out with the dub. Now sit with the 2-1 lead, particularly with an exceptional performance there from Dip on map 3. But it brings us to a Frost Tales map pick. They've got the chance to turn the tide here.
Yeah, Dip and Yohem as well, I think, had a really good performance on the Kiriko, playing like a solo Kiriko on the off angles, getting a lot of picks with finding value. And I think that this will be interesting kind of where we go in terms of max map. I was talking about it where it's like, if we are going to be playing as Quickies, not as Quickies, or as Frosttail, like being so kind of honed in on playing the Junker Queen as like what's our bread and butter, then it's going to be somewhere low ground favored, and Esperance is definitely that. Definitely a very good Junker Queen map where, you know, there is some high ground control and like the over archways and stuff like that, but mostly it's like played on flat ground, which you want to be if you're on Junker Queen. So making a good understanding of the map pick so far for this. I wonder if we see like anything in terms of like a Junker Queen ban or like a Lucio ban, but we already saw that in the last map. So now they're just taking out the other areas, you know, taking away the Sojourn with the Junker Queen comp makes sense as well with how good Kyo is on it. Sometimes that's going to force Kyo to play more of the Cassidy. And then if you're in a Cassidy matchup, you're like, again, you're feeling very good if you are Frost or if you're Quick Esports in that regard.
Now, with JQ, Juno, and Lucio all previously being banned, now all available here for map 4, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Mach 5 comp. I think they go hyper speed here. And because that will also, so you're talking about like the bridge fights can be very important on Esperanza, but you have that nice stairwell. So we often see ground-based compositions played on Esperanza where they can rush up that stairwell to go take that all-important high ground. And I think having the double speed will do that. You can use one speed to get across, and then you still have a Lucio speed and a Junker Queen shout to be able to push and pull with that. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them just go full invest and go as fast as possible here in map 4.
Yeah, we're going to do some F1 racing here. But I think it kind of, based on what we see with the Ana ban as well, I think that definitely kind of like moves it towards playing a very like high-speed comp like that. Because if it is, you know, if you're playing this Juno Lucio thing and you're playing against an Ana, you get hit with one nade and then they're like your engagement's completely gone. So now you don't have the Ana available on the other side. You're going to be able to play a lot more aggressively without the threat of the Ana available to you to like get those anti-nades. And I think that, because like if you were going to play Kiriko, like it wouldn't matter too much, but because it is going to be that Ana ban, that definitely kind of leads me towards what you're thinking, where it is going to be like, yeah, we want to play the Lucio, we want to play the Juno, we want to be, you know, set the tempo very aggressively, not let Frost or Quick Esports really just stand on ceremony with their DPS kind of continuously poking us down,
which has certainly been a problem. And I think we're also looping the Kiriko into that DPS, right? I think there's
for Yoham, yeah, I think Yoham definitely, yeah.
Yoham is definitely one of those DPS. Yeah. It's a triple DPS look, I think, so far here out of Quick.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if it works, it works. And I think the other thing about the composition that I'm seeing from Quick Esports and how they're going to deal with it, like, you only have so many ways to stop an engagement like that, where it's like, okay, so you have a boop, you have a stun with like the flashbang or something like that, but and like Suzu's good to kind of negate a little bit of the incoming dive, but like you're gonna have to really, you know, be very on alert with your head on a swivel to deal with something that's as aggressive and high tempo as this. Maybe they even bring out a Juno of their own where they're just going to use their own speed ring to try and disengage as best as they can, but it'll be hard against the Junker Queen composition where you just have so many avenues to just set that tempo, keep the tempo going.
So we are going to have Frosttails coming out, showing us the Junker Queen. Are in the red outlines here. Keo opted to, so far, kind of looking to match Zydra there in the Cassidy battle. That one surprises me a little bit, to be honest. I have expected them to try to go to the Ashe and try to outrange them.
Yeah, I think the Ashe definitely on this map in particular gets a lot of value too, but it is going to be dip on the Pharah, so trying to offer a little bit more of that spam potential just into this Junker Queen composition, because there really isn't anything to deal with it, right? There's no negation on the spam, so I think this is a good decision, and you can play around this like initial pillar very good with the geometry. It's great for Pharah to kind of maneuver around.
Dip kind of dueling out with Pack at the moment to try to get control of this backside angle. Meanwhile, Frosttails are kind of holding up over in the tile area, just around main, getting robot control. But they don't really have any good sightlines down into the Quick Esports backline. Seems like Zydra is the one kind of playing with this cover, is able to peek at will. Now turning around and put pressure down into Crocs. Crocs hold up inside the cubby. There's the shout. Here comes the speed forward. Knife in, axe in. Willis is gone.
Yeah, and I mean, without Willis, there's no way that you can hold right now. And actually, interestingly, we are going to be seeing the Juno. It is going to be the Kiriko variety, so a lot of sustainability that this team does offer from Frosttail Esports. Traded back and forth, but it's not going to matter too much, as Crocs is just going to clean this one up. And this is really where the value of the Junker Queen is going to come through, is when you have these enclosed areas, when you have such a flat map, the Junker Queen kind of just runs over Ramatra. And I think Ramatra is kind of the only thing that like Willis has shown necessarily that can like match up against a Junker Queen, besides just probably another Junker Queen themselves.
Sustain from a JQ, even though having that low health pool like I mentioned earlier, but there's so much sustain. Particularly with upgraded perks, although we haven't gotten into perks unlocked yet here for Crocs, so they don't have that extra bleed damage online. Keo here is gonna have our first ult in the server. Beautiful pick on a dip as well. That was nasty. Zydra's gonna respond. Finds Gogo with the headshot. Now we get a showdown at the OK Corral. Rolling up high ground advantage here for Zydra. Not the first time I've said that here today. And with that leveraged into a fight win, they're gonna drive Frosttails away.
Yeah, it's a battle of the Cassidys right here, and it feels like they're both going mono-y-mono, as now I think if you're Quick Esports, you want to try and see if you can find some picks off the back end of this and get a little bit aggressive against this team.
The Deadeye out of Zydra to try to negate this Kitsune rush out of Frosttail. Oh, he even picks up Kiwi along the way. Rampage is good. Zydra's hurt. Willis is half health. Purple Got hit by a big card, but the orbital comes in. The purple fades, and Willis is right back at full health. The chase down will get Gogo off the battlefield, and Quick continue to march.
Yeah, I wonder if Crocs actually might have, unfortunately, pulled the High Noon into a place where it was able to take down one of the members in the backline, and Gogo, unfortunately, getting taken down so early in a couple of these fights, not able to farm up towards that sound barrier. But it is still a pretty good lead for Frosttail Esports there, and they will be able to most likely contest before it's going to flip over in terms of the lead.
Slow approach. Crocs just kind of watching the bot get away from them, decide if they want to go up to the high ground. They do decide to shout move up to that high ground position where Kio's got to throw down a Deadeye. Crocs just drops back down, control the bot. After a small disengage, Quicker looking to come back in. Did swap it over to a Tor, but eats a bunch of headshots. Willis moves in. Here's the blade. Trying to cut up the sustain out from behind Willis. Wily up though. Natsuki's able to stun and delete Pack, and Quick Esports will win a third fight in a row.
I love that decision-making from Quick Esports, just forgoing the fight that was happening and just going directly onto the cart, knowing that Willis has Annihilation. So if Frosttail Esports wants to fight at the bot, they're going to have to be walking into Annihilation. They don't really care that there's a Dragon Blade on the other side. A great Brigitte rally and stun takes it out completely, and Frosttail Esports feels like they're now in a bit of a sticky situation for themselves. Quick Esports going to go, retreat, leave the bot where it is, and go back up to high ground to continue to try and spam down.
Which means Frosttails can't just, beat engage into this. They gotta close this gap. They gotta find way up to that high ground. It's not as simple as just press Q and try to run forward. Although I say that, Willis is kind of stubbornly holding right here in the choke. Perhaps could be a weak spot from Quick Esports' formation at the moment. There's the push into the left side high ground. We're gonna send Gogo and Pack up there. See if they can get anything done.
It's so hard. I mean, Ramon Core's gonna come out actually and trying to just go onto the cart, but now it looks like actually Q's gonna end up going down. The sound barrier has to be used on just 2 members.
And it works! And it works! I would never advise just beat for 2, but you know what? It seems like it was date night here for Gogo and Keo, and they're celebrating.
Yeah. Popped over a bottle of some good Portuguese wine here on Esperanza, as now they're going to be able to take it all the way back. They don't have the lead just yet. They should be able to get control of this high ground, which is going to be the big thing because Keo's got this high noon, going to be able to create a lot of space for the team, and that's where potentially you can see Quick Esports end up losing this lead eventually, because Quick Esports don't have a lot to work with, I mean, in terms of ultimate economy.
I mean, in their lead, despite winning 3 fights in a row, isn't all that massive either. 1 fight win here will do it, and the Rampage is going to find 3. There's no Sluzu. There's no cleanse. Kiwi, where are you at? Oh, you're sorry. You're busy. Never mind. Never mind. There's no Suzu available because there's no, there's no Kiriko here for Quick. There's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, and it is going to be disastrous as well for them because I don't think they're going to be able to recontest before they lose this lead here, and they have to make sure that they don't lose any members. Dip getting taken down low. Manages to stay alive throughout all this, but now the lead is finally going to go back over to Frosttail Esports. There is a Senior Rush available, and it looks like we're going to have a high noon coming through. Can it find anything?
Oh. Yeah, that orbital is not going to protect you to the high noon. Willis, though, was able to strike back. Finishes for him to find 2, and Dip just getting in the face of Pack here. It's amazing we got both checkpoints picked up. You don't often see both checkpoints picked up only 5 minutes into an Esperanza.
Yeah, I feel like this is one where it's like everyone just kind of huddles around those 2 bridgeways, and it's like, okay, guys, let's do like how they used to do with like the muskets, where we're just going to stand in front of each other and shoot and see if anyone ends up going down. But for Quick Esports, I mean, to be fair to them, they only had to use 1 ultimate for that team fight. Now they're going to have 4 coming into this next one, and they're going to be in a great position to use their macro to come back and try and get this lead. But there are only 3.5 minutes, so they need to kind of win these fights cleanly to be able to secure that lead and then secure their positioning on the high ground to just continue to milk that clock away from Frosttail Esports.
Back into the backline with the blade. The Molten Core, and combined with the Deadeye, is going to keep them at bay. Willis not able to find safety and gets melted with the Annihilation also being thrown in. So 3 ults simultaneously, and a couple of kills to show for it. It's a 3-1 trade favoring Quick Esports, and this should be enough to get him the lead.
Yeah, they should be able to get the lead here, especially with... I mean, I think it was a good idea from Frosttail Esports because they knew that they were at an ultimate deficit, so they had to kind of throw a Dragon Blade out to see if you could find something. They get the Molten Core out. The big thing is that they didn't... Natsuki was really patient keeping this rally because now you're going to have it for this next fight and have that sustainability because Frosttail Esports don't have support ultimates yet, and Gogo isn't necessarily quite that close. They are going to be dueling a little bit right here on this low ground, so that might be a chance for Gogo to find a way to get to the sound barrier in time.
this is a dangerous rotation. Quick Esports tried to just back away to get high ground. They don't make it up to high ground, but everybody's able to make it into cover for this Deadeye. The rally from Natsuki, it was just fading throughout that entire Deadeye, so you do kind of waste that. Pack tries to dive into a 1v5. That was ill-advised. Just gets shut down. Another enormous rampage, though, and still nothing to deal with this. It's going to pick up 2 kills immediately, and this fight is getting messy. A bloodbath with Gogo finding a good pick on a Natsuki. The fadeaway shot to take the break out and put Frosttails back in control.
Yeah, Frosttails have control here. 2 minutes left for them as the bot's going to start moving forward back over. I think that there is going to, with the spawns that they have, though, for Quick Esports, they will get time to go control back on that high ground, and that's going to be great for them, especially with Dip having that Torbjorn and having that turret, being able to basically make it really difficult for any types of flanks to come through with that Torbjorn holding that positioning.
I think they're going to have to rotate back high ground. Frosttails move to catch them. Oh, what is there? Several things going on here. Quick Esports split in 2. Kiwi was trying to hold the bot. The rest of Frosttails meets to encounter the back flank from Quick. Quick are able to regroup, and we're going to get a 5v5 here right down Main Street. Deadeye coming out from side, just going to find Gogo, and got the AJ! There was a sound barrier that Gogo tried to invest mid-high noon. No such luck. It's an rationale up. That's not getting anything either. Things have turned disastrous here for Frosttails. Willis with a victory piece.
That Ajax is going to come back to haunt Frosttail Esports. It might be the difference between them actually just going down 3-1 here. Very expensive fight for Quick Esports, though, so there is a potential with the momentum that Frosttails have to be able to continuously move forward if they do win this next fight, but they have no support ultimates to work with, which is going to be disastrous for them because they're going to have to fight on cart here, and if you're Dip, you can just throw Molten Core down onto this cart, and Frosttail won't be able to move.
Same plan from Quick on this point. They're just going to hold through the choke, daring Frosttails to get close. Dip, except for Dip. Dip goes on this magical flank. Everybody's trying to actually circle through, and we're just going to get a flip of the map here. Speedering Molten Core to get Quick Esports behind Frosttails. Got to be careful. Willis is able to maintain bot control, so Frosttails can't just run away with it. Zyzer and Dip both come up with kills onto the opposing DPS.
DPS are down, and now it's just cleaning up right now. And I wonder, I mean, they're trying to stall here as best as they can, but they need to just die and get back to respawn at this point because there's only 21 seconds. They will get one last recontest, most likely, with Pack having this Dragon Blade in the back pocket, and Kiwi can teleport and use that Suzu, but it's last fight territory for them. And even if the Blade comes through, you've got Natsuki who's holding that rally, stun, insta-killed if this Genji is focused down correctly.
And it wouldn't be the first time that Natsuki had shut down a Pack Blade here today. Pack playing with a little roof slide off the top. Jumping in, trying to help deal with the double DPS in the back line. Tippin touches overwhelmed. Pack never got a chance. The rally can be used just to clean off the point. Don't have to worry about the blade now. We're in OT. Player advantage for Quick Esports. They're going to take Crocs out of the fight. Orbital Ray on the point. This is just going to be the dagger, the nail in the coffin, the championship point here for Quick Esports.
And Quick Esports have finally broken serve. That was one of the best Junker Queen maps. That was the Junker Queen play from Frosttail Esports, and Quick Esports completely read it, played so well. Willis's Ramatra has been phenomenal. The way that it's operating, I love that the way that they are kind of using it as like almost like an anti-dive, where it's like whenever you see like these very aggressive pushes out from the Junker Queen, Willis is just like, hey, guess what? I'm gonna walk behind your team. I'm gonna throw my Vortex down. I'm throwing down my Annihilation. You don't get to play. You just end up dying. And even if we're trading like 1-for-1, 2v2, if we have the lead in terms of the bot and in terms of the macro, we're totally fine with that. Like, I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing from Willis, who going in, like in the previous series, we saw a lot of them opting in for the hazard mirror, but now this Ramatra seems like it's like the key to beating this Junker Queen composition.
Once again, Quick are able to answer. Even with, I mean, just these stones on this Quick Esports squad, to be like, oh, we see you're running a Junker Queen. Nah, we don't need the carry.
Yeah. I think as well, the other thing that's really good about the Juno that I really like is the utilization of speed ring from Yoham. Like, Yoham seems like a very mechanically gifted player and like didn't get to show up as much in terms of like the kill feed as the Kiriko did. But again, the speed ring, being able to maneuver around, like even using it as an engage tool, like we're seeing here, where they're using that speed ring to send Willis into the back line so that he can use Annihilation and make it difficult for the supports to move. Because if it's Lucio Kiriko, yeah, you have TP, yeah, you have Suzu and things like that, but if you're using those for an engagement, it's not going to favor you with how many cooldowns you're going to be saving for Quick Esports. So I'm really liking the way that they're maneuvering around a lot of these A lot of these fights.
And now with, I mean, your two best Joker Queen picks as far as game time are off the table heading into map 5. Things do adjust a little bit from regular season. But I'm curious as to now what Frosttails do. Quick seems to have had an answer for every one of their strategies coming into this. And this seemed like their best shot to tie this up. I'm concerned for Frosttails, and I don't know how you respond to this one. I don't know.
So I think the good thing is that they're going to get Sojourn back, which is going to be one of the big things, because I think in terms of like the matchup between Kyo so far and between Zydra, at least on Cassidy, it feels like it's super Zydra favored. And that makes sense because of how well Zydra played it in our previous series and this one as well. But I think that like getting the Sojourn back is going to help, because I think Kyo feels a little bit more comfortable, and that hero also offers you a little bit of mobility to get away from something like Ramatra if it's diving at you aggressively. Because a lot of the times when we're seeing the Ramatra go in, you know, Kyo's just ending up dying to the Ramatra and the Annihilation and things like that. So bringing in Sojourn, getting a little bit of that mobility. To be fair, though, I think Quick Esports with the ban phase has been fantastic so far with what they've been picking and banning. I really have liked what I've seen from them. But for FACEIT Esports, I mean, this was a team that the 3-1 that they beat them last time in the upper bracket, it was rather convincing, Bullskunk. Like, they really took it to Quick Esports, and this feels like Quick Esports is a completely different team compared to where they were earlier in the bracket.
I love you mentioned how smart the pick ban phases have been. I mean, big shout out to PNR, who is a Quick's head coach, and it's awesome to be able to actually see the impact of coaching in this modern day in Overwatch. You know, where we've introduced hero bans, we've introduced kind of where you can choose your own game type, and all that has created such an awesome strategy going into this. And Quicker seem to be masters of it. Big shout out to their coaching staff.
Yeah, dude, I've been asking for pick ban for like years. Like I wanted it for so long, and now that I get to see it, I get to like wax poetically about it. Like I'm so happy that we have pick ban, because it adds like another layer of strategy where it's like this was a map where, you know, even thinking about like, do they want to run the mock speed comp, we got a banana, things like that. So I think that like when we go to our next map, which we do have, I think it's going to be Blizzard World, it looks like, as our next, again, another map where actually this one's interesting because first is like very flat, second's like, no, I think Junker Queen's still good here. Now that I'm thinking about it, you can still kind of like maneuver pretty well with like Junker Queen, but it feels like what I'm looking at for FACEIT Esports is like, you've been figured out on that last map. That was Esperanza, probably one of the best Junker Queen maps we have. Now you're going to Blizzard World, which isn't as like strong of a map that is kind of compared to Junker Queen, or compared to Esperanza rather, as FACEIT Esports is going to take the Brigitte off the table. Which I think makes sense with how good that Natsuki played that with the stuns and stuff. Genji doesn't really get to have fun when Rally is on the table, so taking that one out can help a little bit.
The downside of this, though, is Blizzard World is a map that also heavily favors dive compositions. You can play a D.Va here very effectively. And so I feel like you're giving Quick a couple of different options to find an answer here that could be problematic.
Great ban.
Frosttails are running out of options. So
this is a great ban, though. I think this is a fantastic, because of how long Blizzard World is, right? When you look kind of like, you have to go through, like, first you have to go through that long gauntlet, second you have to go through that long gauntlet. Symmetra kind of lets you cheat the engagement in that regard. So getting rid of Symmetra, not letting them just TP forward and just like have that ability to cheat the setup and get out of a way where they can, like, whereas, you know, Zydra isn't able to hit you or anything like that, or the spam isn't coming through from Yoham. I think this is a good idea for them, trying to take that away. And again, another fantastic round of pick ban, I think, from Quick Esports, knowing exactly what they want to do here on Blizzard World, which is where I think we could potentially see some longer range DPS. We talked about Ashe being a potential. I wouldn't expect Widowmaker necessarily. I mean, if there was a map, it could be this one. Ana gets a lot of value here as well, being able to have that long range potential with the anti-nades. If it is going to be Hazard, that's going to be played here from either of these teams. So I think that these are, again, really good pick ban. I think this is probably the one map that's left where I'd be like, okay, yeah, Junker Queen is really strong here. I'm trying to think of like other maps that could be really, really good for Junker Queen.
There's not that many. I mean,
it was Esperanza. It's like Esperanza and with like Esperanza and Cervasa, like those are the ones, and they went 1-1 and they got broken on serve. So Blizzard World, I think, is the next best option for what they could do if they want to continue to run Junker Queen.
Now, I suppose good news is there's really, it's actually tough. I was going to say the good news is they would get a reset in types, but the bad news is even if Frosttails win this, it's going to be all quick map picks from here on out. But hey, you know what? One step, let's not get ahead of ourselves. One step at a time. Frosttails have to focus on the here and now, have to focus on just taking Blizzard World.
Yeah, and again, they do get Keo back on the Sojourn, which is a potential a potential boon for them, because I think that it's just the Sojourn has definitely looked a lot better for Keo than something like the Cassidy has so far, so they get that. And I mean, if you're Quick Esports, there's not really a lot of reason for you to change anything. Like you've been playing this composition so well so far. If it is going to be Junker Queen, you know how to beat it. If you do have to, be forced over to something like the Hazard, I'm sure Willis is totally fine opting in for a mirror on the Hazard composition as well, because they look good in that regard. So I think that this is for Frosttail Esports, really, this is your last, it's your last chance. You're down, you're on map point. You have to figure out some way to come back into this one. And I think right now, bringing in your comfort is probably the best way that they're going to end up going there.
Interesting that they're running the double flex, so Yoham gets to go back into the carry here for this defense, and Natsuki coming off of the Brig is going to pick up the Juno role.
Attackers incoming.
It's going to be the Juno. So, they're going to try and use speed ring to, maneuver Willis around, maneuver the rest of the team around. I do like that there is the Torbjorn again from Dip being able to...
Yeah.
This is what Yoham has been doing the entire time, right? If there is nothing to, negate you, if there's no, shields or anything right there, Yoham just finds these picks somehow. Zydra's also going to get a lot of value. Dip's going to get a lot of value. It's going to be a lot for Frosttail to try and make these engagements, because they have no ability to block anything.
How do you plan for that? How do you plan for Yoham just picking you off before you even make it to the choke? Unreal. Just nasty stuff here from this flex support, here from Yoham. But I will say, Frosttails have gotten the first leg of their journey done. They have somewhat forced Quick Esports back into the stable. Willis is trying to stretch out, see if they can deny some room inside of the Mega, but Frosttails are starting to kind of get themselves entrenched. Crocs now within striking distance of this high ground of this backline. Will force Yoham and Natsuki to rotate. Zydra back there to protect him. Here comes Dip and try to take it back. Zydra on the move as well. Recognizing a vulnerable Crocs. Crocs puts the block up trying to get out. They leave Pack alone in the 1v4.
And really good rotations from Quick Esports. They're maneuvering around so well, not letting Frosttail Esports get onto them here. Even though they're giving up some space, they're just playing effectively around the cooldowns that they have, as also the ones from Frosttail Esports, knowing that if there's a jump and that, if Crocs is in too deep, we have a potential to take him out, and that forced him out. Dip going to be pumping down this area. Has the turret up as well, so this is just, again, a lot of spam, but it's given a lot of healing over to Keely, who's got this Katsuna rush.
Yeah, very fast Katsuna rush. Deadeye blocked by the wall and the Suzu, so got a couple of cooldowns out. That push almost put Zydra into the drink. They're able to keep feet on dry ground. Kiwi's able to find that kill on Yoham. There you go. Much needed one there for the ego of Kiwi. Unfortunately, they're going to get taken down. Crocs with the revenge. And the +1 here to Frosttails. It's just Zydra and Natsuki left for the defense.
Yeah, they don't have supports, but that's a really good dive coming in from Frosttail Esports. The wall from Crocs to start things off, forcing out so many cooldowns to keep Zydra alive from Quick Esports, really completely turn that fight on its head. And that's really what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to find, if Quick Esports makes these small overstep, that's really where we're going to see some value. And Pack on the Hanzo, that one-shot potential, also something that Frosttail Esports is going to have to be relying on against all the spam that Quick Esports have.
He's playing aggressively over the top. Look, here comes Willis just sauntering down the stairs with a Katsuna rush coming up Main Street. Frosttails do a great job of disengaging from this, though. They're able to get out for one of the most important ultimates without losing any casualties. Now they're going to have an overclock and some dragons to come back in with. Yoham Swift steps past the wall. Dip going in for some peels. Just going to lava up that flank side. We're going to turn to main. There's a little bit of a welcome mat for the entirety of Frosttails as they're going to hang back for a moment.
Yeah, just waiting patiently, and just creating time. And now actually Crocs is going to be the one to go into the Ramatra matchup, not wanting to play as Hazard against Ramatra, which we've seen be so difficult to maneuver against. Is actually, oh my god, look at how aggressive Dip is being.
Honestly, probably they didn't pick up that kill. The Dragons are going to be thrown right over the objective. Willis was just gaining health through the Dragons. My goodness. Orbital, happened to be a pretty good hit. Consider rush coming out. There's going to be the annihilation with Willis, still trying to stubbornly just hold this choke. Frosttails would rather not invest any more ults into this. And as our Ramatra's just in a little bit of a staring contest at the moment, one that Zydra is going to win. Still player advantage, now exacerbated by Pack skill onto Zydra, and even with Dip coming up with one, Frosttails should be able to get this cart rolling.
And I really like the decision-making of putting Pack here onto this Hanzo, just offering a little bit more of that long-range potential, because realistically, Quick Esports don't have anything to contest a Hanzo at long range, and now you're seeing the chess match continue where they're going to be bringing in Willis back onto the Hazard, putting Dip on that Genji to try and make it a little bit more difficult for Pack to kind of just stand on Ceremony, on the high ground, and just try and hit some arrows. And Pack, in turn, is going to see that and go back over to the Tracer. Good chess match so far between both these teams in the Rocket Pursuit.
That from Zygo with a speed ring, perhaps trying to catch somebody sleeping. There it is! It was Keo who was not ready for that. Will was able to fight K-Way as well. Really quick, nice re-engage from Quick.
And now I wonder if we're going to see Crocs like switch back over to the Hazard now that it's been a Hazard matchup for Willis right here. I think you're going to probably see Crocs use Annihilation and then make the decision to try and swap, especially because you have a Lucio sound barrier, so you can be very aggressive right here with this Ramatra composition. And Quick Esports don't have anything to do with it just yet. Yohem potentially could find a way to continue rush in time to match.
They're not too far away, only about 5%. Frosttails are going to beat up top at a 4v5. They've left Pack down low for cart pressure. Continue rush thrown in through Main Street down from Quick Esports. They're going to turn all their guns in Crocs. Crocs doesn't even get a chance to pop that Annihilation. The rest of the team is just going to try to back away.
Yeah, now you don't have a sound barrier to cover the Annihilation, which is going to be a little bit tricky. I think that Crocs is still going to stay on it because you just want to get onto the cart and just, you know, make the fight a little bit difficult for Quick Esports to maneuver with, but you are sacking a lot of your time bank continuing to stay on this Ramatra. I mean, there's only a minute left here. By the time we get to the cart, there's no sense of a respawn advantage for them. It's going to just be off of this overclock and off of this Annihilation to try and win, and by the time we get to this team fight, there is a chance that Nsuka could find Orbital Ray, and then those two ultimates don't get any value.
Not to mention that this time continues to go down. Frosttails may not get another chance at this step. If they wait too long, this could be their last opportunity. Keo's going to go ahead and pop the OC early. Will force all of Quick Esports up to the high ground. Keo jumps up there with the slide, but not locking down any targets. Going to back away and pull up some cover here in the arcade. Quick Esports looking to regain some of this high ground, but Dip can't stand in front of Crocs for too long. Frosttails have gotten set up now and built up 3 ultimates to try to take this back. Under 30 seconds to go as Frosttails emerges from the top side using the container rush thrown down towards the point. Down 4 coming out from Willis right over the top. That hit at least a couple. Kiwi is going to go down. Orbital Ray now available from this defense. 12 seconds remain. Frosttails still have one open to work with. They've invested the pulse and not been able to find anything. Dip comes in with the blade. He's going to go dashing past one. Once Keo. Keo's able to slide out fine. Turn around, put a slash into Crocs. He's going to pop an Annihilation. But low, Dip is going to find that final blow. Orbital Ray over to the point. So good for this defense. Extra healing, extra damage. Dip with all the kills in the world. Quick Esports are going to make a stop.
No ace for Dip, but I mean, Dip is slicing and dicing. And again, the decision-making from Quick, so, like, instant. I love what I'm seeing from them where they're just like, okay, we don't want to go with the matchup. Let's just bring Hazard. Let's try and force Pack off of that Hanzo. They do exactly that. And then it feels like Frosttail Esports is just continuously playing into whatever Quick Esports wants to do. And yeah, you're like saving Annihilation if you're Crocs in that regard, holding it until like a team fight, but it gets no value whatsoever. And the Ramatra's like not really having a great time moving forward and engaging and taking that space that's something that like a Hazard would do. So again, I think this is Quick Esports just really having a good understanding and being way more proactive in terms of their ability to swap and in terms of their ability to change their composition on it.
They are controlling this map. They are 100% controlling the flow of this map and controlling each battle, each engagement. And I would have liked. I think Willis swapping earlier would have been. I think you just let go of the Annihilation at that point. Annihilation is an ultimate where it feels like you kind of have to have the defense on the back foot already for it to find value. You're trying to force them out. You're trying to provide that extra layer of damage and threat to where the defense can't hang on when they're already on the back foot. But trying to force a defense off balance is so tough with the Annihilation. Quick was just able to pour all their guns, and Crocs died immediately.
Yeah, it does feel really bad to like give up Annihilation in that regard. So I can understand where like Crocs is coming from, but like in a perfect world, I think that like with 2 minutes left, you probably would have had time to get like a downpour or something like that and make it a little bit easier to make those engagements, as we're going to see Dip not finding anything with the Widowmaker shot. Usually those don't end up working out. They're smarter than that. But we go back over to that Torbjorn. Again, the spam potential against this Hazard just so impactful, and Dip has been playing really good in terms of just like putting down that pressure, because Dip is sometimes like 1v2ing people, and even though you won't secure picks sometimes, you're just putting down so much pressure and creating so much space by yourself that it's really difficult for Frosttail to ever set themselves up effectively like they want to.
And not to mention creating a mismatch. Quick have been very good at creating these mismatches in the middle of a 5v5 where they kind of force a 3v2 off on the side. And it looks like what they're doing here is they've managed to kind of corral Keo and Crocs to the front of Stables. Quick are just going to continue the rotation. Quick actually pounce onto the remaining players that are sitting in the back, looking for Keo, looking for the squishies. But Natsuki gets too close to the sun. Keo's going to melt them down. And Frosttails do a good job kind of spreading out and pointing all their guns in the same direction. So they spider web out and wait for Quick to come into the middle and then pour all their guns down onto the attacking Quick.
Yeah, I mean, they're still trying to hold this positioning, but it's going to be very difficult, especially if you get booped into the drink like that. Zydra will trade one back, but it's not going to matter too much. I mean, really, really patient play coming in from Frosttail Esports. They were like all half health, it looked like, when I was looking at their health bars during that team fight, and just were able to survive and keep themselves out of that pressure. And now you see Willis actually going over to the Hazard, forgoing that Ramatra, and trying to be able to have that potential to just create that space for Zydra, who has a high noon, to just zone out Frosttail Esports when they try and come back into this team fight.
Slow approach up front. Okay. Frosttails are trying to set the tempo here, trying to regain control of this battle. Crocs goes in onto the Mega, actually steals the Mega away. Surprise, the rest of Quick doesn't try to pounce on the fact that there they are. Yeah, here comes the reinforcements as the call is made. And kills start lighting up the fade. Crocs just ends up isolated. It took a little longer than expected. They're eventually wrestled out.
Yeah, unfortunately, the TP and Suju just a fraction too late to save Crocs there, and the High Noon really did a lot in terms of just zoning off members. Again, the way that we're seeing Quick's play, just the high tempo, being aggressive, every time I feel like I'm looking at Frosttail Esports, and when we see Crocs in particular with the usage of cooldowns, it's always defensive. Walls are defensive, dashes are defensive, like always trying to get away from Quick Esports, and I don't think that's where you want to be if you're playing Hazard.
Crocs trying to change it up. Get in a position to just force Willis out. Willis is staging under. Crocs is going to match. Kind of playing a game of leapfrog here. See if they can get aggressive, but with the Kitsune rush up, they found themselves in a really bad spot. There's a sound barrier edge from Frosttails, and that's going to actually flip this. What a play out of Gogo to help them survive through that Kitsune rush. The aggressive play paying off.
Yeah, they need to secure these kills, and they are going to be able to do so. Now they can hold and start taking away a lot of the time that's on the clock for Quick Esports. Quick Esports do have very key support ultimates in their back pocket. Specifically, you're going to have this Orbital Ray, which is going to be great for just moving them forward here. But if you're Quick Esports, or if you're Frosttail Esports, you don't want to get too aggressive. You don't want to just lose a fight in the neutral. You want to force ultimates for Quick Esports to get through here.
Downpour from Crocs. And there's Pack able to follow up. One core coming in from the attacking Quick. He's going to melt through one. The rest of Frosttails are just kind of backing around this corner.
I don't think without Crocs, though, I don't think that they can hold this position. They're going to have to get out of here. Actually, okay, that is a big pick, though. Johan does end up going down, so that's a lot of healing that's lost, and that might get enough time for Crocs to get back in here, but it actually means that they will have to give up that positioning because of the respawn advantages. So it looked like it was a good fight to start things off with, but unfortunately, the most important member ends up going down.
Looking back in, Crocs is... Ooh, it's threat of going down again. It's actually Gogo who gets picked on that. Crocs manages to get out. It's using the cooldowns just to stay alive through this. Anybody who comes onto the point is dead. And that box of victory, and that is the championship box for Quick Esports, is a mere meters away from them right now. Right at 10 meters separates them from the championship.
It's got to be a hero play from Keo here. Overclock comes through, but this match by the High Noon.
Zydra's zoning everybody out. There's the overclock fade, and Keo trying to peek, but it's so dangerous. Peeking into Zydra. Dip lands it. Nobody on the cart. Quick will claim the championship. They stand alone on top of the mountain. Are your grand final champions.
Quick Esports going 7-1 today in maps, and when they won, it looked convincing throughout. They 3-0'd that lower bracket final, 4-1 here in the grand finals, getting their revenge against Frosttail Esports, who pretty handedly beat them, Wolfskunk, in that upper bracket final. Now in the grand finals, when it matters most, it's Quick Esports who come out on top. Both these teams will be heading to that promotion relegation battle, but it's Quick Esports who are going to go as the #1.
And what a story. You're talking about a team that lost 2 of their 3 matches at the end of the regular season. Looked like they were kind of falling off of it. I was starting to worry. I think fans were starting to worry that Quick was not going to be the top-tier team that we had seen from them all season long, that they were predicted to be going into this season 4. And then what a turnaround, and particularly with their star starting hit scan player finding themselves in the hospital, unable to play. It seemed like disaster had fallen upon Quick, yet they dig deep and they turn lemons into lemonade. In fact, it is championship drink right here.
Yeah, and I mean, lemonade is the best Gatorade flavor anyways, but I think that realistically, when I'm looking at this, like, Zydra deserves a ton of credit, I think, for, like, being able, you know, if Snowdrop is on this roster, Snowdrop is kind of like the star hit scan, and then you talked about it, how Zydra hadn't played for like 2 months, comes in, looks like one of the best hit scans. Like, I mean, the Cassidy was phenomenal in this series and the previous series as well, never copped a ban, but I felt like at some points maybe it should have deserved one. Like, Zydra's Cassidy was fantastic every single time we saw it, and a very well-deserved win for Quick Esports, who take it 4-1. Again, the way that they played around their macro, too, was so fantastic. You talked about how FACEIT Esports loves playing, like, in the mid-fight, but they never got into a mid-fight. It was always Quick Esports setting that tempo, being the, like, even in that last fight where it's like, okay, yeah, we have overclock, I'm just going to high noon. What are you going to do? Yeah. You can't beat me with high noon. I end up going down. You're all zoned. Like, just a great understanding, the way that they were able to switch also in, like, the mid-team, or, like, being able to go from, like, Ramatra composition to the Hazard composition, just forcing FACEIT Esports to play Quick Esports game. And I think that's kind of the difference maker.
Quick set the pace. They are your champions, and the hot up-and-coming team. I mean, these next ups, it's such a joy to watch them grow. I can't wait. I can't wait to see them move on. I can't wait to see them in the promotion relegation matches and what the future holds for this championship Quick squad. As they showed us so much depth, so much awesomeness. I mean, be it from the back line, be it from the subs coming in, the super sub coming in, or the star Willis themselves there in the tank role. Yeah. It was an incredible performance and a lot of fun to watch. I think we're actually gonna get an interview in here, as we're gonna get to talk to Dip, talk to Flex DPS player here from Quick. I don't know if we're quite set up for that, but you know what? Something to look forward to, friends. I can't wait to talk to Dip.
I think Dip was like a very interesting person, because I want to ask him like what the Torb was, because it felt like I think when they played like previously, I saw like no Torb, and I felt like that was something that when they played like in the first series against FACEIT Esports in that upper bracket, we didn't see like a ton of it. We saw like mostly just like, you know, Genji more so than anything, but maybe they found something like in their matchup against TA, who was like a super like dive heavy team, and Torb is like very good into that, but like maybe they just found something where it's like, hey, Torb's pretty good, like just in general, you know, once you get that perk as well, the spider turret, just throwing it on the wall, like maybe it does get some value, and it felt like it did, because a lot of the time when Dip was like on those flanks just like 1v2ing people, again, you're not showing up in kill feed necessarily, but you're just creating so much space, and then you get Zydra who's able to pop off, you get Willis who's able to pop off, like, I mean, you get Yoham who's able to pop off, who was just like on Kiriko just throwing kunai at people's heads like Teru. Like, I mean, it was really, really fantastic play from Quick Esports. And, you know, we talked about a lot of these players kind of like being up and coming. And I think this is a great win for a lot of these up and coming players who like get that championship under their belt. Now they get to go into the promotion relegation battle with a little bit more momentum on their side.
Oh, it's so fun to watch. So fun to watch. The next generation. I mean, it's the new era of Overwatch, and it's been a joy to watch it grow, to watch the next generation players come up, really find their own. I mean, again, Will is just turning 17 this year, just eligible to play in these games, and all due to age requirements. And I mean, it has been grinded for years, now has that drive, now has the ability, and now has the path set to move into OWCS for the first time. I mean, it's so exciting, so cool, so cool.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's like the new version of the Path to Pro, where it's like we're seeing these players who are, you know, might not be known, you know, like a 17-year-old superstar kind of being raised as a tank player, you know, coming in, wasn't able to play last season because of the age requirement, now finally gets to play and show himself. And Willis played, I mean, the Ramatra looked great too. Like, I was very impressed with the breadth and the pool that Willis had, being able to play a lot of things effectively. Didn't see like something like a Winston or anything like that, but the Hazard looks great. Like, the Ramatra looked great. Like, I think the sky's the limit for this Quick Esports team and also for Willis.
Hey, you know what? You gotta save some surprises for those those
That's
promotion
true,
relegation
that's true.
matches. You know, you can't show your entire hand here, I suppose. Hey, it looks like we are ready. We're gonna get dip in here and have a little chat with our champion. Talk to our Flex DPS player. Dip,
Hello.
Dip, can you
Dip.
hear me? Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on winning the championship. My goodness.
Thank you so much.
So, so talk to me a little bit about this matchup, because you had to play 2 games today. You beat TA pretty convincingly. I'm really interested what are your thoughts on Torb, because it felt like Torb was something that you were playing particularly for TA because they like the dive a lot. They pretty much play only that, but you kept it going into this series against FACEIT Esports. Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on Torb.
I'm a Torb lover. I think people can tell from the matches. Like, I play Torb everywhere I can. I think the character is like really broken right now. It's really good against many matchups. So just had to figure out when to pick Torb and when not to. But once you figure that out, you just go all the way and you win.
Okay, so what's the magic sauce? I mean, the extra armor on the Torb is good against divers, good against hazard and stuff. So when is Torb bad? Against Sojourn?
I guess against really high poke comps where you cannot live, I think it's really hard. Like when you get to play against Farah, I think it gets really hard. But anything outside of like Farah or Sojourn Hanzo, for example, when they had double like hit scan, it was really hard. But then outside of that, Torb always good.
Was there like a bounty for you to get a hammer kill here today in the Grand Final?
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, I had to do it with style. You can't just win and not get a hammer kill. If you get to play Torb for like 3 maps, you need to at least get 1 hammer kill. Else you're just not a real Torb.
Okay, listen up, Torb mains in the chat. You gotta do that. But kind of walking through against like FACEIT Esports in general, you played them in the upper bracket final. It was not as close, I think, as like the 3-1 and then you like play here. This seemed like it was very convincing. What were your thoughts going into the series as a team, to play? Obviously you wanted your revenge after being taken down to the lower bracket, but it felt like you were super prepared with like the Ramatra comps, and it felt like you really knew how to beat that Junker Queen comp that FACEIT Esports was really adept at.
Yeah, I think we worked really hard to figure out the comp. So I have to give credit to my entire team and coaching staff. I think everyone worked their ass off to make sure we knew what to do against Squid. So we did have a hard time on Suravasa, just like last time. But this is just ban issues, I guess. We just figured that out later. Just play Torb or Farah, and we made it work. And we were also in a very good dynamic, I think. Since we beat TA 3-0 right before, I think everyone was feeling really comfortable, and we had really good comms. Everyone was trying their hardest, so I think every single player on our team was ready to win.
Tell us about that moment, because I know with Snowdrop having some medical issues and stuff that things took an unexpected turn here in the middle of playoffs. What was the energy like of the team? How did you respond? And what were you thinking going into that team match, which led into this historic run to the championship? Well,
fortunately, Snowdrop is feeling better now, so that's the most important. But now we just won when Snowdrop was missing with Sidra, and we just kept running with it. So I really think it's not definitely related to just swapping a player out. It's just the mentality of the team overall. I think it's really hard work and not giving up, since we had a hard time earlier. I think even though we won our first match against SR Pigshake, I think that wasn't as clean as I would like to see it, I think. But afterwards, even when we beat TA, it got a lot better, and it kept getting better after matches, despite us losing to FACEIT the first time. But as I said, we figured it out, so it's all good.
Okay, awesome. So tell me a little bit about the dynamic of the team, because it feels like you all are super coordinated. Do you get jealous of Yoham at all, because Yoham gets a lot of picks and takes away your ability to do that? It feels like you're super blessed with the players that you have around you to be able to have that pop-off potential, and it feels like you're all just a very well-oiled machine. The dynamic between all of you seems very good, even though it's a mixed roster. You all seem to have a very good cohesiveness to you.
Love to see Yoham getting early picks. I have to take it out every day of the week. But I think, we have really good bounds, team bound. I think we all enjoy playing with each other. So I think it matters a lot when it comes to coming into big matches like that. You need to show off show up, sorry. And if you don't have like players that enjoy playing with each other, then it's not gonna work out anyway. But we worked hard for that. Like we prepared hard for our bands, everything we could. So I really think like having a good team bond really led to this grand final and this result.
How does it feel to be the last Frenchman standing? Feel good?
I mean, there are still a bunch of French in relegation, but I'll take it. I guess I have Skytor, who also speaks French.
In this tournament, you're the only one left, so t'es le dernier alors, c'est bon.
I guess. Well, that's cool. Best French, I guess. Best French in FACEIT League, I'll take it.
Let's talk about those relegation matches. If you're able to get through, whether it's in front of you, theoretically you make it. What would it mean to you and the rest of this quick squad to make it into OWCS for stage 2?
I think it would be amazing. I think everyone's been working so hard for that. That's the goal. Like, obviously the goal was to win FACEIT League, but like FACEIT League is just not enough. This is not something you can be satisfied with in the end, because like if you win FACEIT League but don't make it to OWCS stage 2, then like what for? What are you playing for? So obviously we're gonna work even harder to win the relegation, hopefully make it top 1 as well, and just get the better seeding, better spot, just go as high as we can, and try our best, I guess, in stage 2.
Well, I can't wait to see those matches. Wish you the best of luck in those. But you know what? Go celebrate this championship. Your team is $7,500 richer from this first place. You've also got the bragging rights as the best team in EMEA T2. Big congratulations, Dip. You are a champion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dip.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. We got one in the books, Kenobi. We got one champion crowned.
One down, and 2 of those teams are going to be hit. I mean, I'm very excited to see kind of what FACEIT Esports is going to do. Having gone through this upper bracket, going through this heartbreak a little bit, they still have to play in that relegation tournament. So I'm really excited to see what both these teams end up doing as they get into promotion relegation. But you can see how we got here with the Season 4 playoffs. Quick Esports taking a small trip down to that lower bracket, but then going 7-1 in their last 2 games. Dominant performance from them, and I can't wait to see what they look like in that promotion tournament, because if they continue playing like this, I'm not sure there's a lot of teams that can stop them.
I think you may be right. We may be destined to see Dip and the rest of Quick there in OWCS for stage 2. I know all the Quick fans out there are hoping so. You know what? It'll be fun to watch Frosttails too. I mean, you gotta love the power of friendship. You gotta love a team that's willing to throw out a little Roadhog Life Weaver every once in a while. I don't know. It's fun to watch. It's gonna be a great event. Next weekend's gonna be a lot of fun. But we still have a lot of wonderful action coming up for you later today. We are done with EMEA. We have crowned your Season 4 champion here for EMEA Master Division. But of course, that means we still have 2 teams from North America to send over into the OWCS promotion relegation matches, and we still have a champion to crown. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, get set up for our next matches, but when we return, we're going to crown another champion. Don't go far. FACEIT League Master Division Grand Finals will return in just a few minutes.